10 online scams you might get fooled by. Number 1 is the Apple offer scam. Okay, literally every social media site in the last year has had the Apple product scam on it. Apple products are pretty popular, but because of their high price point, people are always looking for a deal on them. Well, that's where the scammers come in. There have been everything from Instagram spam accounts dedicated to giving away a free iPhone if you tag a friend, to fake YouTube comments under creators' videos, including mine, pretending to be that person, saying, hey, click this Google link and you'll just get a free iPhone. It's so easy. But of course, my favorite is the Facebook ads that use influencer pictures, which happened to me and iJustine multiple times this year, where fake testimonials are given using our pictures and different names, of course, or thumbnails from the videos that we make saying, hey, my name's Brian and I got this iPhone for $1. In fact, this very thumbnail that was from an old vlog of mine was circulating on these Facebook scam ads for like 3 months, with people that were tagging me saying, hey, your name isn't Brian and you're not from the UK. But seriously, these scams take advantage of your desire to get the products that you want by taking your banking info so that you only pay $1, only so that they can actually steal a lot more money from you. So at the end of the day, just make sure you think critically. If an offer online seems too good to be true, it probably is. Number 2 is the long lost relative scam. This is one of the most popular scams as well as one of the oldest. Since email has become a thing, scammers both domestically and foreign will email you claiming that they're your long lost relative and that an uncle that you never knew that you had has left you a ton of money, like $5 million, and you were the only one in his will. How generous! This scam takes advantage of people's deepest dreams of having someone show up and just drop a pile of money on their lap, and while a lot of them are clearly fake, like the Nigerian prince who just chose you at random to send you money, they're getting smarter with them. You'll get a random email from a person seemingly offering free money, and some of them will actually search your online profiles and mention real family members of yours to sound extra convincing. And of course, all they need is your banking information so that they can deposit the money to you. How convenient! Except of course, you won't get a penny, and instead you'll likely find that your accounts have been drained faster that you can say Prince Abdullah III. Number 3 is the online pharmacy scam. There are multiple websites online that you can get your drugs from, and some offer discounts, which can be great, especially if you don't have health insurance. But some websites prey on the fact that some people and families need certain drugs and just can't afford them. So they take your credit card information for product that you'll never receive, or worse, charge crazy amounts to the card and steal your money. And what's scary about it is that these websites look like legit online retailers, and they invest a lot of time into building a site that's warm and inviting, maybe even showing a picture of a doctor. Look how happy he is. He's gonna steal your money. Really though, your best bet is to just ignore unsolicited emails offering popular cheap drugs. And if you do shop online, make sure you pay attention to the URL. Safe websites almost always have a lock of some sort in the URL showing that it's safe, secure, and encrypted. Scam sites do not invest in this technology, so just avoid them. Number 4 is the fake gift card scam. Gift cards are super popular, especially at this time of year, so wouldn't free ones to your favorite stores just be amazing? A lot of these scams operate the same. You get a free gift card by filling out a survey or by clicking a link. And it sounds simple enough, you'll get that much closer to that thing that you really want, and it just takes a little bit of your time, easy peasy. But these sites are a lot more devious than simply wasting your time. To participate for the free card, the questionnaires end up elaborating on your personal information that's either scattered throughout the survey, or they ask for your information all at once at the end in order to claim it. In a way, it's actually kind of smart because they don't immediately ask for your information, which seems to add legitimacy to the whole thing. Well, they wouldn't let me spend 5 minutes filling out a survey just to scam me at the end. Oh no. But they do, and all of this information is then sold to other criminals who steal your identity. And that's just a whole nother can of worms. Obviously, the promised gift card is never received, and Wanda Robinson in Texas just became you. And that's great because she loves buying expensive Fabergé eggs. Lucky you. Number 5 is the lottery scam. We have all seen these scams pop up at least once in our email. Congratulations, you just won $5 million in the totally real, not a scam at all online sweepstakes. Send us $1,000 and we'll cover the wiring costs and send you the money right away. Now, a lot of people would not fall for that, but believe it or not, these emails can be quite convincing and even look like they're from governmental agencies. Not just that, but there are ways to fake the domain of where the email is coming from, so sometimes it can be impossible to know if it's a legit email or not. The best way to protect yourself is to use common sense. If you don't play the lottery, especially an online one that you never played or just doesn't exist, you probably didn't win it. Number 6 is the iTunes, PayPal, or Netflix scam. This one is probably the most popular scam out there right now. I personally get these emails daily. You're minding your own business when an official looking email comes into your inbox looking like it's from iTunes, PayPal, or Netflix. Usually it has account locked or service canceled in all caps in the subject line to grab your attention, and they proceed to tell you that they couldn't charge your credit card because of some problem, or either click this link and update your info. How nice of them to warn you, huh? First off, no reputable organization will ever ask for your personal information, ever via email, so don't click on any links inside of them. Secondly, if it does look legit, just Google their official email or phone number and contact them directly. Never respond directly to the email. Thirdly, you can usually avoid these scams because of the terribly bad language that they start the email with and continue to use throughout the email, including "hello dear" or "so sorry to bother you, dear customer." Companies don't talk like that. If an email contains any spelling mistakes or some other form of spelling that looks like it was written from a 5-year-old who just immigrated to North America, ignore it. Number 7 is the job offer scam. This scam is unique because it doesn't actually offer you any products, but instead preys on those who are unemployed or those who simply hate their current job, which is like 90% of people. Wouldn't it be nice to make a ton of money just by staying at home all day and doing some light work for us? Yeah, you can make $5,000 a week. Now send us your banking information so that we can pay you off, scam! Part of the reason that these scams are so successful is that they run ads on legitimate websites and also operate in sort of a gray area because some of them actually do pay in the interim, but they usually end up selling your personal information that you just willingly sent to your awesome new employer. Yeah, I just quit my job and I got this new job where like I could sit on my couch and I make $5,000 a week and all I have to do is like email smiley faces to people. It's great. Number 8 is the catfish scam. The catfish scam is also very different because it isn't instant. In fact, it can take months and months to execute, but when it happens, it hits you hard. Scammers will set up online profiles using other people's pictures and using fake names. From there, they will randomly message people in a flirty way looking to establish a relationship. If someone bites, they'll create a friendship or even a love affair that will last for months but never actually meet up with you. That is until one day they say they need help, and being someone that they've come to love, you want to help them, so you give them the thousands of dollars that they desperately need or plan to use to come finally see you. Of course, neither of those things happen and they suddenly drop off the planet, never to be heard from again. The best way to protect yourself from this is if you're talking to someone online, Google image search their photo to see what comes up. If you search this photo and a guy named Matthew Santoro comes up, they probably aren't who they say they are. Number 9 are fake virus scams. This scam always comes in a new pop-up window that says you have a virus, so either download this software to clean your computer or call the friendly technicians by using the number on your screen. Both PCs and Macs get these pop-ups all the time. In fact, some of them will actually lock your browser, making you unable to do anything else, including exit it, until you call the number on your screen. These scams are super convincing because they will tell you that you have a virus and that you need to call Microsoft or Apple immediately to scan and fix your system. And when things are flashing in your face and sometimes a voice even speaks to you, it can be a little scary. But there's two things you need to know. Neither Apple nor Microsoft care if you have a virus on your system, nor can they see what's on your computer. Secondly, these scams never pop up on reputable sites, so pay attention to where it happened. Were you on Facebook or were you on like goatlovers.com looking up some freaky dicky stuff? You know what I'm saying? I don't judge what you're into, just be careful of them pop-ups, baby. And number 10 is the greeting card scam. This one is especially important to pay attention to right now because it's that time of year where people send out a lot of Christmas cards, etc. Over the years, e-cards have become very popular. They're a quick and convenient way to send meaningful messages to your friends and family, and they're nicer than a simple email. However, of course, scammers figured out that by sending you an email saying that your mother or father has sent you a greeting card, they're preying on the good feelings generated by the season and hope that you'll click the link that they've sent you. Of course, on the other end is not a greeting at all, but instead a virus or malware which will not only infect your computer, but it will display inappropriate messages and pop-ups, and sometimes it will actually send more of those virus-filled cards on your behalf to the people in your address list. These viruses can also cause your computer to send personal and financial information to the criminals controlling it. Your best bet is to either just mail a real card or take the damn time to call your mama. She misses you, baby. She likes to hear your voice. Number 1 is the Frome Horde. In April of 2010 in Somerset, England, Dave Crisp was using his metal detector along the ground when he happened to stumble upon a giant stash of Roman coins. Exactly 52,503 coins were discovered buried in a ceramic pot after Mr. Crisp found the first one in a chunk of clay. Made from silver and bronze, the coins date back all the way to 253 and 305 CE. How much was it worth? Well, historians say that it was comparable to a 4-year working salary of a Roman legionary. Today, the hoard is valued at around $460,000 and is currently held at the Museum of Somerset. And you be laughing at people on the beach with their little beep 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 machines. Yeah, not no mo. Number 2 is the Etosha Motherlode. On July 20th, 1985, after over 17 years of treasure hunting, Mel Fisher discovered the wreckage of a Spanish ship off the Florida Keys. The Our Lady of Etosha sailed in 1622 with an extremely large amount of silver, gold, copper, indigo, and precious jewels that took over 2 months to load it. Since the discovery, over 40 tons worth of silver and gold has been collected, valued at over $450 million. And that's only half the reported treasure. The rest of the treasure is still lost with the stern castle section of the ship somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. Time to go full swim! Number 3 is the Fishpool Hoard. In Ravenshead, England in 1966, construction workers at a building site accidentally dug up a cache of medieval coins that went on to become the largest discovery of its kind in Britain. 1,237 gold coins, 4 pieces of jewelry, 4 rings, and 2 lengths of golden chain, all from the 15th century, were recovered and valued at around $430,000. The hoard was most likely buried by a refugee during the early battles of the War of the Roses, sometime between 1463 and 1464 CE. The collection currently sits in the British Museum. That is until I get there. I'm gonna pull an Italian job. I'm gonna be right back. Number 4 is the Curedale Hoard. On May 15th of 1840 in Curedale, England, a group of men working to repair an embankment on the River Ribble discovered a lead box buried with a massive amount of Viking treasure. Dubbed the Curedale Hoard, the treasure included, prepare yourself for this, 7,000 Anglo-Saxon coins from 903 to 905 CE of various types and 31 kilograms of silver ingots. The majority of the coins were from Viking colonies, but some were collected from various foreign sources such as Byzantine, Scandinavia, Islam, and Northern Italy. The entire hoard is valued at over $3.7 million. You know when those guys found it, they were like, Foreman, yeah, I retire, peace. Number 5 is the Whydah Galley. Discovered in 1984 off the coast of Wellfleet, Massachusetts by Barry Clifford, the Whydah Galley was the captured British flagship of an extremely wealthy pirate named Captain Black Sam Bellamy. Over 200,000 pieces have been collected from the wreckage, including gold and silver coins, jewelry, and cannons. But perhaps the greatest find came when the ship's bell, which had the ship name and maiden voyage date of 1761 engraved on it, was fully authenticated as the first pirate ship ever discovered. Clifford didn't sell any of the treasures that he'd brought back, making its true value relatively unknown. Recovery of the Whydah treasure is still ongoing. However, much of the valuable gold that it was reported to have been carrying is still yet to be found. Look at that, now there's finally a good reason to go to Massachusetts. Number 6 is the Saddle Ridge Hoard. In April 2013, while walking in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California, a couple happened upon an old metal can of near mint gold coins. Upon further investigation, 7 more metal cans were found, totaling 1,400 gold coins from between 1847 and 1894 during the California Gold Rush era, and the collection is worth upwards of $10 million. Could you imagine how he felt when he found all those gold coins? How do you keep a secret like that? I'd be nervous. Okay, John, you found a bunch of gold coins. Just be cool. Don't make it obvious. Hey, John, how's it going? What? I didn't find any gold coins? I mean, hey. Number 7 is the Terracotta Army. On March 29, 1974 in Zan, China, 7 Chinese farmers digging a well struck the head of a large statue. That one statue was joined by the rest of the Terracotta Army in the eventual unearthing of thousands more. With many more still buried, it's estimated that the army consists of 8,000 soldiers, 520 horses, 150 cavalry horses, and 130 chariots. The army was constructed in the 3rd century BCE under the rule of Emperor Qin Shi Huang to help protect him in the afterlife. Each statue has unique facial features and were colorfully painted in their original state. Sadly, the farmers who discovered the statues received nothing for their find, and the government seized their land. Today, the value of the stone army is completely unknown, but officials call it priceless. I get it, priceless because it's a once-in-a-lifetime find, but also priceless because who's gonna buy a stone statue? It's just stone. Number 8 is the Java Sea treasure trove. Discovered by divers swimming in the Java Sea off the coast of Indonesia in 2004, this treasure consisted of 271,000 artifacts from a 1,000-year-old shipwreck. It took 30 divers and 22,000 dives to recover the treasure, which was largely made up of 10th century ceramics and porcelain from China and ancient Egypt. Also found were 14,000 pearls, 4,000 rubies, 2,200 garnets, and 400 red sapphires. The collection is worth over $80 million and is currently being auctioned off by the Indonesian government. Okay, I get it, impressive, but I've seen Pirates of the Caribbean. Please, does anyone know if there were zombie pirates down there? Who's got the answers? Number 9 is the Black Swan Project. On May 18th, 2007, Odyssey Marine Expedition Inc. flew some 17 tons of gold and silver coins that they recovered off the coast of Portugal to an unknown location in the US. It was later proved that the coins had come from a Spanish frigate called the Our Lady of Mercy that sank in 1804. In 2012, the coins, valued at $500 million, were flown back to Spain to be put on display in museums after the Spanish government sued Odyssey. Okay, but how much did they sue them for? Because if I was them, I would just sell a small portion of it, give them 10 million, and then you've still got 400 something million. It's just math, people. And number 10, the Sri Padmanabhaswamy Temple treasure. And now for the real motherlode. In June 2011 in India, a Supreme Court gave archaeologists permission to open some very secret vaults. Located inside the ancient Sri Padmanabhaswamy Temple, this treasure was worth nearly $10 billion in antique valuables. Just some of the contents of this vault included sacks of diamonds, thousands of pieces of jewelry, gold and silver antique items, and thousands of coins that dated back several centuries. This find made the temple by far the wealthiest institution and place of worship of any kind ever. There's another underground chamber beyond the vaults that is presently unopened, and that archaeologists believe contains more valuables at an estimated value of over $1 trillion. I understand if they want to leave it for now, but the economy might get bad again, you never know, you might have to dig up a corpse or two. Oh, a diamond inside a skull, I'll take that, thank you. Pay off your debts. And kids, that's how the economy works. Number 1 is King Farouk of Egypt. Looks like the crown jewels weren't enough. In 1936, King Farouk became the 10th king of Egypt at only 16 years old. He was known for basically acting like a rampaging toddler, including taking whatever he wanted from whomever he wanted, whenever he wanted. During a state visit, King Farouk stole Winston Churchill's watch right out of his pocket and then wore it around like, hey, find us keepers, bro. Then, in 1944, the Shah of Persia died, and when his coffin was brought to Cairo, King Farouk showed his respects by stealing a ceremonial sword, belt, and medals right off of his body. Oh, the man dead, he's not going to use them. Given that he had the attitude of a spoiled child star, it's not surprising that he wasn't exactly well liked, and in 1952, he was overthrown and forced into exile. But then, his hoard of treasure was later discovered, which included everything from, prepare yourself for this, rare coins and stamps, fine art, magic tricks, and even the world's largest collection of porn. Well, guess everyone needs a hobby. Number 2 is Nick Prugo. From October 2008 to August 2009, a group of wealthy rich kids decided to go on a burglaring spree. Well, yeah, those 10 yachts get boring quickly. The ringleader, Rachel Lee, who drove an Audi A4 by the way, and her friend Nick Prugo, first decided to break into Paris Hilton's mansion. Over the next 10 months, they broke into her home at least 5 times, stealing personal items and even, for some reason, trying on her shoes. This must be what it's like to have no talent. They then decided to recruit their friends, Alexis Neris, Diana Tameo, and Courtney Ames, to join them and broke into at least 50 more homes, including other celebrities like Orlando Bloom, Lindsay Lohan, Rachel Bilson, and Megan Fox. They used social media to see if their targets were home, and then Google mapped directions to those homes. In total, they stole over $3 million in clothing, jewelry, accessories, and cash. Prugo's face was caught on surveillance, and the rest of the group was caught because they were bragging online, coupled with an anonymous tip that led to all of their arrests. Must be nice to have all that money and just continue to be stupid. Spoiled little shits. Number 3 is Thomas Langenbach. Thomas Langenbach was vice president of mega tech firm SAP, had a good marriage, 2 kids, and a beautiful house worth $2 million in San Carlos, California. But was that enough? Obviously not. Langenbach used the internet to get his thrills, but on eBay that is, using the screen name Tom's Brickyard and reselling of all things Lego. Turns out Langenbach was printing off fake barcodes for Lego products at home before switching them in store. His barcodes would scan in way lower prices for really expensive Lego sets. So this meant that he could buy Lego for a fraction of the real cost before going home and selling it on eBay for a profit. And man, was he good. In under 1 year, he made $30,000 and had a 99.9% positive rating. But the world of Lego trafficking proved to be too much, and he was arrested on May 8th, 2012 and charged with 4 felony counts of second-degree burglary. Well, somebody didn't get to play with their toys enough as a kid. Number 4 is Caroline Giuliani. I don't know about you, but when I'm heading to Sephora with hundreds of dollars in my wallet, it's about to be shopping spree madness for the hottest nude palettes and definitely that new mulberry matte lipstick, you know. Trucks, man, sports, wrestling, guy stuff. Anyways, on August 4th, 2010, Caroline Giuliani, daughter of former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, had similar plans, minus the whole actually paying thing. The then 20-year-old Harvard student was caught stealing over $100 worth of makeup from a Sephora in New York City near her home on the Upper East Side, despite both of her parents being multi-millionaires and having $320 in cash in her purse. Although she was led out in handcuffs and had to complete 1 whole day of community service, it just so happened that the store decided not to press charges against Caroline once they found out who her daddy was. Lucky. Number 5 is Farhad Hakimzadeh. Farhad Hakimzadeh was a millionaire, respected author, publisher, and businessman. But from 1997 to 2005, he had another hobby, stealing thousands of pounds worth of priceless texts from a British library. These people, man, whacked. As a frequent visitor of the library, he was given access to some of the library's most precious manuscripts, which he said he wanted to look at for research. But in reality, he would use a small hidden scalpel to remove the pages and smuggle them out for his private collection. It was only after another patron noticed that the pages were missing from a bunch of manuscripts that the library did a massive audit and discovered that he was the only person who had viewed all of the damaged books. When police searched his home, they found the stolen goods, including a 16th century golden lined map engraving of the world worth 30,000 pounds. Overall, he caused 71,000 pounds in damages and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Number 6 is Rita Crundwell. From 1983 to 2012, Rita Crundwell was the finance chief in Dixon, Illinois, a small city located west of Chicago. She was also the city's comptroller and was a well-respected member of the community. But that all changed on April 17, 2012, when she was arrested and charged with stealing at least $53 million from the city. Turns out being the only person in charge of a city's money also makes it a lot easier easier to steal, like a lot of it. It was only while Crundwell was on a long vacation that a co-worker who had taken over her duties noticed that things weren't, adding up. Turns out an $80,000 a year salary wasn't enough for her. Investigators found that over the years, she had spent $2.1 million on a motorhome, $450,000 building a horse breeding empire, and $2.5 million in credit card charges. Rita now gets to spend the next 20 years in prison to reflect on whether that vacation was really worth it. Number 7 is Dr. Richard Ludwig. On March 5th, 2011, in Davenport, Florida, Harun Majid, a 14-year Navy veteran, lost his wallet while buying supplies for his 9-year-old son's birthday party. Majid called his credit card company less than 10 minutes after he lost his wallet, but he was told his card was already being used. Turns out Dr. Richard Ludwig, a respected dentist from Michigan, was in town for his son's baseball tournament and had found Majid's wallet in the supermarket's parking lot. Oh, but he's a respected dentist. I'm sure he would have just gave it back. No, he didn't. Police caught Ludwig buying $40 worth of pizza in the same plaza where he found the wallet. When police asked if he was having money troubles, Ludwig laughed and told them absolutely not, and that he was worth nearly $4 million. And he gave them no reason why he did it. To make it even worse, Ludwig had $250 cash in his pocket the whole time. I'm sorry, there was a shortage of fillings this month and I really want some pizza. I'll use my credit card. Number 8 is Madhukar Mohandas Prabhakar. Madhukar is known as the Robin Hood of India, and man, did he take stealing from the rich to give to the poor to a whole nother level. For 40 years, he had been flying all the way from his home in Pune, India, to rob houses in Mumbai. On May 15th, 2011, police finally caught him mid-robbery, and during his interrogation, not only did he confess to 90 other robberies, but he also revealed that he was actually a multi-millionaire with multiple homes and even a temple. But unlike most thieves, he wasn't using his loot to pay for his own lavish lifestyle. He would sell the things that he stole and donated the money to the poor or unemployed in his own town. Oh man, I'm confused. Is this okay or not? Kind of a gray area. Anyway, it turns out that this wasn't even the first time that he'd been caught. He'd been arrested before, but since his crimes were considered petty theft, he could always afford to be released on bail. Kind of hard to hate this guy. I'm so confused. Number 9 is Winona Ryder. In December of 2001, actress and 90s princess Winona Ryder was arrested for shoplifting $5,560 worth of clothes and accessories from the high-end department store Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City. Of course, it's not like she needed to. At the time, she was reportedly earning $6 million per film. When she was caught on camera, she tried to get out of it by telling security guards that she was just researching for a new role. After a highly publicized trial, she was convicted of grand theft and vandalism. She was fined $3,700, sentenced to 36 months probation and 480 hours of community service, and even had to pay over $6,000 in restitution to the store. Winona has actually said that the whole thing was for the best and saved her from a downward spiral, which is great, because I, for one, would hate to see her whole life get turned upside down. Get it? Because Stranger Things, it's a Netflix show. Yeah. And number 10 is Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff was the CEO of his own company and was one of the most respected financiers on Wall Street. That was until his arrest on December 11th, 2008. Turns out Bad Boy Bernie was also running the biggest Ponzi scheme in US history. He was basically promising investors crazy high returns on their investments that he could never actually pay off. He was well connected and well liked, which likely has something to do with how he managed to pull off this con for decades. Instead of paying his investors, he actually stole nearly $65 billion from them. When the market started to turn in 2008, his clients requested $7 billion back, but he only had $200 to $300 million left. Before his arrest, Madoff's net worth was estimated to be, brace yourself, $17 billion. But he won't be able to use that for commissary because it was all frozen, and on June 9th, 2009, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Well, it looks like the only thing he made off with was being somebody's pincushion in prison. That should be fun. Number 1 is The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. One of the most well-known paintings of all time, The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci, was painted in Milan, Italy in the late 1490s. Controversy surrounds this famous painting, especially after being heavily featured in author Dan Brown's historical fiction novel, The Da Vinci Code. However, Mr. Brown is not the only one with theories about what secret meanings lurk beyond the brushstrokes of this famous painting. Italian musician Giovanni Maria Palla discovered that when a musical scale is laid across the table and the hands and loaves in the painting are taken as notes, a musical composition is formed. When read left to right, as was the writing style of Da Vinci, a 40-second tune comes to life. While this may seem way too far-fetched to believe, even disbelieving scholars support this theory due to the fact that the composition boasts perfect harmony. Number 2 is Cafe Terrace at Night by Vincent van Gogh. Long before the rumors and myths of the secret messages behind Da Vinci's masterpiece, The Last Supper, surfaced, it was and still is an inspiration to artists around the world. Even the well-known post-impressionist painter Vincent van Gogh seemed to use it as an influence. Painted in France in 1888, Van Gogh's Cafe Terrace at Night is said to be his own adaptation of the Last Supper scene. Looking closely, you can see that there are clearly 12 diners all seated around a central figure with long hair. Plus, there are multiple crosses hidden in the painting, including one in the window directly behind the presumed Jesus figure. Not convinced yet? It is worth noting that Van Gogh, the son of a Protestant minister, was very religious. So religious that when he wrote his brother in respect to his painting, he insisted that the world had a tremendous need for religion. Number 3 is American Gothic by Grant Wood. American Gothic by Grant Wood was painted in 1930. This painting features two seemingly boring and ordinary farmer folk posing for a picture in front of an American Gothic style house. However, when it comes to famous paintings, nothing is ever as it seems. Looking closer at the painting, we see that the woman has a loose strand falling out of her tied back hair and wears a brooch featuring the Greek goddess Persephone. Persephone, known in Greek mythology as the goddess of the underworld, spring, and vegetation, also has a dark past. Myth has it that Persephone was abducted and raped by the Greek goddess Hades, king of the underworld. Is the loose hair on the woman in American Gothic an indication that Wood was actually creating a modern-day version of the Greek legend? It's worth noting that the pitchfork you see the farmer holding in the painting is eerily similar to Hades' two-pronged signature weapon. Number 4 is the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. Famous for her elusive smile, her following you all the time eyes, and the fact that she may actually be the womanized self-portrait of her painter, Mona Lisa's meaning and identity has intrigued historians for ages. Painted in 1503, Da Vinci was back at it again, hiding secret messages and meanings in his work. Historians in Italy have just discovered that when Mona Lisa's eyes are magnified, tiny numbers and letters can be seen. A distinctive LV is found in her right eye, which many assume to stand for Leonardo da Vinci, as well as undistinguishable symbols in her left eye. On the bridge in the background, the number 72 appears, along with the number 149 on the back of the painting. Are all these numbers just coincidence? Are historians looking for something that just isn't there? Well, many experts insist that these letters and numbers are code for a real-life Da Vinci Code-like puzzle. However, nobody has ever even come close to solving it. Number 5 is The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo. One of the most iconic images of all time, the creation of Adam, was painted by Michelangelo in 1512 as part of his commissioned work on the Sistine Chapel. As well as being renowned as one of the greatest painters and sculptors to come out of the Italian Renaissance, Michelangelo was also an enthusiastic student of anatomy. If you take a closer look at the creation of Adam, you will notice that the cape behind God very clearly resembles the outline of a brain. Right down to the pituitary stalk, Michelangelo managed to incorporate many complex components of the brain. American scientists have confirmed that the creation of Adam, as well as other panels done by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel, feature true anatomical sketches. It was well known that Michelangelo harbored resentment for the church in regards to their dismissal of science. Perhaps this was his revenge. Number 6 is An Accident by L.S. Lowry. An Accident was painted in 1926 by British artist L.S. Lowry as part of his famous Matchstick Men style. Lowry was known for painting scenes of industrial England that subtly featured everyday human suffering. While An Accident is not blatantly about anything necessarily negative, if you look at the right-hand corner of the painting, you will notice a small crowd gathering by the town lake. This was to be reflective of the scene of an actual suicide of a young local woman who drowned herself in the town square not long before Lowry painted this scene. However, what is found to be the most unsettling is how this suicide is a background incident, indication that death is not important to anyone there. You will notice that some Matchstick Men seem to be interested in the scene, others just keep going with their lives. The hidden message is that our pain doesn't matter at all and we are inevitably all alone. Number 7 is Isabella by John Everett Millais. Painted in 1849 by English painter John Everett Millais, Isabella depicts a scene from Giovanni Boccaccio's Decameron novel. Looking closely at the man in the left foreground with his leg outstretched and nutcracker in his hand, you will notice a certain private-shaped shadow on the table. Strange how this phallic-looking shadow lines up perfectly with this figure's crotch. In addition, the salt spilled across the shadow may signify more than just some white salt. It's noteworthy that the Decameron, the book on which this scene was based, has often been described as the most erotic book ever written. It wasn't until 2012 that these details were discovered, so while the intention of the artist cannot be confirmed, many art curators are quick to validate that masturbation and the anxiety of controlling your sexuality were well-known troubles at the time that this piece was painted. Number 8 is Man, Controller of the Universe, painted by Diego Rivera. Man, Controller of the Universe was painted by Diego Rivera in 1934. Originally commissioned for the Rockefeller Center in New York City, it was destroyed by Nelson Rockefeller before it was finished due to the fact that it featured images of a Soviet-Russian May Day parade. Completely insulted and unimpressed with Mr. Rockefeller, Rivera took to Mexico to finish what he started, but not without plotting his revenge first. The finished mural features recent scientific discoveries in its central cross, including exploding suns, galaxies, and close-ups of bacteria swarms. When Rivera finished his painting in Mexico, he featured Mr. Rockefeller right under a very specific bacteria swarm, the bacteria being syphilis. It looks like Rivera's work was implying that Mr. Rockefeller had syphilis, and to add further insult to injury, the featured Mr. Rockefeller is standing by a woman with a martini, likely a prostitute. Number 9 is An Allegory with Venus and Cupid by Angolo Bronzino. Painted in 1545 by Italian painter Angolo Bronzino, this painting features Venus and Cupid making love. While some people claim that this painting is simply about love, beauty, and jealousy, compelling evidence was brought forward in 1986 that the characters unmistakably showed clinical signs of syphilis. Looking at the figures in the background, they are all evidently ill, with swollen fingers and missing fingernails. Their toothless gums suggest mercury poisoning, mercury being the closest thing to an STI treatment available at the time. Even the little guy that's showering Venus and Cupid with rose petals has got the disease. If you look closely at his right foot, he appears to have stepped on a rose thorn and not have noticed. Once again, an indication that someone got carried away in the throes of passion. On its own, this painting is disturbing, but its secret message about the effects of syphilis is worse. And number 10 is the portrait of Bill Clinton by John Nelson Shanks. As is traditional for all presidents, former United States President Bill Clinton had his portrait commissioned by a well-known artist, John Nelson Shanks. Having done portraits for many celebrities and politicians, from Ronald Reagan to Princess Diana, Mr. Shanks seemed like a perfect fit for the job. This portrait is of the former president standing beside the mantel in the Oval Office, seemingly an innocent image, right? Painted in 2005 in a studio in Philadelphia, news of a secret message hidden in the portrait didn't break until 2015. Mr. Shanks finally admitted that the shadow that you can see on the mantel was actually an outline of the infamous DNA-stained blue dress that Monica Lewinsky wore during their infamous romp in the White House. Shanks said in an interview with People magazine that the shadow of the dress on the mantel acts as a metaphor for the mark of the popular sex scandal. Just goes to show you that pictures are sometimes worth more than 1,000 words. Number 10 is the multiverse. Parallel universes have always been a popular theory in quantum mechanics, describing our reality as just one in an infinite number. If you watch Rick and Morty, you know what I'm talking about. Each new universe is a variation of our own in either a relatively large or minuscule way. For example, there could be a reality with no squirrels and I have hair. Disturbing. They can be unintentionally created through diverging decisions, like choosing to vacation in Chile while another version of you chose Greenland instead. Without enough knowledge of how space-time works or what lies beyond our 3 dimensions, we may be unable to prove that parallel universes even exist. However, in simulation theory, parallel universes are a series of simulations all running at the same time. Rather than infinite realities, simulations would be launched with available computing power to avoid crashes. Each reality would run under a different set of conditions to see how we cope with the outcome. And with the world as it is right now, I think we got the short end of that simulation stick. Number 9 is time travel simulation. Hypothetically, a human civilization in base reality will be far more advanced than us, but they may also be in much more danger than us. An advanced civilization may have been nearly wiped out by global warming, untreatable epidemics, or a murderous AI. That little robot that vacuums your floors for you, it's gonna cut you in your sleep. If we set aside the idea that these future humans are running a massive sim program as either a sick joke or a giant video game, it may be that we are a projection of their past selves. If something went catastrophically wrong in the future, observing simulations of what happened before would serve to find insight into how it occurred or how to solve the issue before it got much worse. If life in the future is already difficult to sustain, then perhaps our simulation is a way of letting those that couldn't survive in the physical world live on in digital form, essentially saving our species. Kind of a brain in a jar situation, you know, with electrodes attached to it. That's the future you have to look forward to. Number 8 is Earth's conspicuous conditions. The Earth almost seems too precise to be a natural occurrence, almost as if it were designed for us to live and thrive. In order for humans to exist, we need very specific conditions, and we happen to be extremely lucky in that regard. Earth is 150 million kilometers from the sun, which is perfect enough to give us warm temperatures to survive in. Our sun is not a dwarf star, nor is it overly massive, so it gives off just the right amount of light and heat. Earth spins around the sun, giving us a good balance between heating and cooling on the the surface. If everything was simulated, Earth would simply be programmed with all these convenient qualities in order to support life. According to this theory, humans may not be the ones behind the driver's seat after all. Earth could literally be a perfect digital incubator, growing humans as an experimental species for aliens to study. Oh, Matt, you're out of your mind. That sounds crazy. Am I? Because that's exactly what scientists do right now in their universal simulations. To them, we're the aliens. Number 7 are the limitations of reality. Natural laws govern how things exist and function. The maximum speed of light is 1,080 million kilometers per hour, and it cannot be broken down into a simpler form that is able to surpass that speed. Science is unable to explain why this is, but we do know that the speed of light is the fastest that anything can go in the universe. Our natural laws could be compared to the limits of a computer processor or the maximum speed of transmitting information through a network. Oh man, this one's getting heavy. If everything was simulated, the speed of light would be set simply because the machine that runs everything couldn't process anything faster than that. Other universal constants such as Newton's, Planck's, or the electrical constant could all be explained as the maximum information values that the system can allow before it crashes. Number 6 is the Fermi paradox. In 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi revealed that if there are billions of stars and possibly trillions of planets that orbit them, how have we not yet been visited by intergalactic life? Of all the planets in the universe, there must be some that have developed intelligent life, and there must be a couple that have beaten us to inventing interstellar travel. By this logic, we should have been visited by now, and unless aliens have decided to deny us contact, or the government is covering it up, it seems highly irregular that we haven't seen anything yet. In simulation theory, our simulation only accounts for human life and is not designed to account for other life where it should exist throughout the universe. Or, and this gets even deeper, perhaps each planetary civilization is designed to be independent and to believe that they are alone in the great expanse. Oh man, this is deep. We're just designed to think we're alone. Oh mama! Number 5 is the game of life. In 1970, British mathematician John Horton Conway created rules for a simple game that plays itself and evolves based on a player's input. The game of life includes an infinitely expanding 2D grid of square cells that interact with their 8 neighboring cells in either an alive or dead state. The states are determined by a small set of guidelines, including that a cell with more than 3 live neighbors dies, and any live cell with less than 2 live neighbors dies. Players can create systems and let them die out, spreading into complicated patterns. As players experimented, the game became significant proof that a machine capable of computing absolutely anything was possible, with people actually creating their own games within the game. We may have created the means for a programmable life simulation back in the 1970s. Oh my god, I'm really starting to believe I'm not real. Okay, that hurt. I'm definitely real. Ow. Number 4 are simulation glitches. Even the most tightly programmed and bug-tested simulations will always have a few glitches. If we're part of a simulation, glitches would certainly explain some of the strange phenomena that we experience. Paranormal occurrences like ghosts may just be programming bugs that have yet to be worked out. Hey mom, I know grandma died, but she's in the kitchen and she's see-through. Of course, in these cases, people would actually be seeing what they have described and should avoid them at all costs. Then there's feelings of deja vu, which may be legitimate, as your life is accidentally repeating certain instances because of a system error. These glitches may be part of the simulation as well as part of some people's artificial intelligence code, meaning certain mental illnesses or psychic abilities could also be ruled as bugs. So wait a second, in this context, could aliens be hackers or maybe even a malicious computer virus? Oh lord, this is getting heavy and we still got 3 more and I am questioning life. Number 3 is Moore's Law and advancing technology. Technology is becoming more sophisticated, and its integration into nearly every aspect of our daily lives is becoming more and more popular. In 1965, the co-founder of Intel, Gordon Moore, discovered that the rate of improvement in their technology had doubled each year since they started, and he predicted that this would continue into the future. As technology advances, things like video games and virtual reality will become indistinguishable from our reality. When Pong was released back in 1972, it involved two rectangles and a square dot. 45 years later, we have photorealistic graphics in massively multiplayer worlds with complex program algorithms. If earlier humans had made these increasingly quick leaps in technology power, it's highly possible that we could already be inside their new age virtual reality. It may be virtual reality, but remember, there's still rules, so don't go jumping off a house being like, Matt Santoro said it was virtual reality, thinking you can fly. You did. Number 2 is the universe is mathematical. Humans are extremely inquisitive, and we're constantly striving to understand things that we cannot recreate or witness physically. So we use mathematical calculations in order to simulate almost anything in our conceivable universe. Since our reality can be explained with various mathematical equations, we could conceivably run a version of reality on a computer by breaking down equations into binary code. Not only is this a possibility, it may have already been done. In 2012, theoretical physicist Sylvester James Gates discussed his discovery of a type of computer code. The code used in modern-day browsers and search engines inside equations that are being used to explain fundamental elements of the cosmos. So it would appear that we have already found pieces of code written in our existence. You know, if we do even exist. And number 1 is it may be unavoidable. Clever inventors and physicists are already proving that we are capable of creating a simulation of life at some point in the future. If we are able to become creators of a new human civilization and a new digital Earth, will we do it? The short answer is yes. Despite questions of morality and ethics, the computers of the future will most likely be powerful enough to create simulations on smaller scales. With godlike powers in every programmer's hands, it will only take one person unable to resist the temptation to start the process. Another product of this power falling within our reach is that the possibility that we are all simulated and that our ancestors acted similarly to create us will become much greater. And if this is true, how many simulations deep are we within the base program? Number 10 is Jesse James. If anyone had reason to fake their own death, it was the notorious outlaw Jesse James. Supposedly shot in the back by Robert Ford on April 3rd, 1882, he became famous at the age of 22 for killing a cashier while robbing Davies County Savings Association Bank in Missouri. This is what began his 12-year run robbing banks, stagecoaches, and trains. The public followed his exploits across the Midwest and even rooted for him after Pinkerton agents killed his 8-year-old brother and maimed his mother in a botched raid. There have been persistent rumors that Jesse James faked his own death with the help of the traitorous Robert Ford. So in 1995, his coffin was exhumed and his body was examined, but it was determined that the remains were at the very least a close cousin, but not verifiably James. Just to be clear, so no one digs up my coffin and I can just rest peacefully, I am not actually half whale, so no need to examine my body. Not, oh, half whale, just a name. Okay, moving on. Number 9 is Amelia Earhart. Famed female aviator Amelia Earhart captured the world's imagination flying around the world, breaking barriers in aviation and gender boundaries. She was last seen on June 2nd, 1937 in Papua New Guinea, refueling her plane with navigator Fred Noonan before finally flying to the tiny Howland Island 4,000 kilometers away. Earhart and Noonan likely ran out of fuel or had mechanical errors and crashed into the Pacific, but some speculate that they were executed as spies by the Japanese from photographic evidence of them on a Japanese military dock. But Amelia may have faked her own death to escape her fame and elope with Noonan, her rumored lover. But the craziest thing is that it's alleged that she assumed the low-key identity of a New Jersey banker named Irene Craigmile Bolam. Well, if she did want to lay low, a banker would be a great job, because that is the most boring thing in the world, and no one's looking into that. Number 8 is James Dean. James Dean's death on September 30th, 1955, behind the wheel of his Porsche 550 Spyder, is one of Hollywood's biggest tragedies. He was just 24 years old when East of Eden was released, and Rebel Without a Cause was due to be released just a month later. Conspiracies abound about what actually happened to him, who raced cars in his free time, with evidence that Dean was driving safely at a much lower speed than reported. In addition, damage to his car, nicknamed Little Bastard, was too light to cause a broken neck and internal bleeding. With all these conspiracy theories, you're tearing me apart! That's from one of his movies. Most of you are way too young to know that. So, anyway, moving on. Number 7 is Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was the blonde bombshell icon who was found dead in her Los Angeles home on August 5th, 1962 from a Nembutal overdose. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, she broke hearts, including President John F. Kennedy. She also upset the First Lady when she sang "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" just 2.5 months before her death. Now, it's known that Monroe had mental health issues related to her fame and may have checked out, not with suicide, but faking her own death. John Alexander Baker claims in his book, Marilyn Monroe, Alive in 1984, that he picked up a homeless, paranoid, schizophrenic Marilyn in Nova Scotia, Canada, when she escaped a mental ward in New Brunswick. Well, she was born in 1926, which would make her around 92 today, so if you see a really pretty 92-year-old being like, "The government!" that might be her. Number 6 is Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison was the Lizard King and could do anything, perhaps even faking his own death. The Doors singer was found dead from heart failure in the bathtub of his Paris apartment on July 3rd, 1971, by his heroin-addicted girlfriend, Pamela Courson. By the time the Doors manager, Bill Siddons, arrived, Morrison's death certificate was signed and his coffin sealed because Courson lied to the American embassy that Jim had no family. So because of that, no questions were asked and no autopsy was performed. But the coffin's contents were unverified, but still buried in Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris on July 7th, 1971. But Morrison had discussed faking his own death as a publicity stunt and even planned to disappear in Africa under the anagram of his name, Mr. Mojo Rison. Is that an inconspicuous name? Mr. Mojo Rison? That's like me changing my name to Princess Banana Hammock. People might pay attention. Number 5 is Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee remains an enduring icon of martial arts who trumps Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and Chuck Norris. Okay, maybe not Chuck Norris. Please don't come for me, Chuck. Bruce Lee died on July 20th, 1973 in Hong Kong at the age of 32 from an acute cerebral edema and prescribed medication he had a bad reaction to. But how could a man who was so young and so insanely fit that he could break boards with his bare hands and take on an entire dojo of street toughs die of a little brain swelling? There are pictures of Bruce Lee relaxing in a coffin, and later his coffin lid had to be replaced, making people wonder if he kicked it off so he could escape. There have even been Bruce Lee sightings around the world in shopping malls, driving taxis, and eating in a Chinese restaurant in his hometown of San Francisco. All I've ever wanted to do was make a kung fu movie and be as cool as Bruce Lee. Perhaps one day I can do it. Bye. Number 4 is Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley popularized rock music with his sultry looks, baritone voice, and hip-shaking swagger. But sadly, the king died of a heart attack on August 16, 1977, on the toilet of his Memphis, Tennessee Graceland mansion. But since Elvis's death, the conspiracy that he faked it is so rabid, there was an Elvis is Alive museum in Wright City, Missouri. But since his death, Elvis has been seen all over the world, in a California grocery store, in the airport scene in the 1990 classic film Home Alone, and even in Chernobyl before the nuclear meltdown in 1986. One reason many speculate that Elvis may have actually faked his own death was that he joined the Witness Protection Program after infiltrating a gang of racketeers called the Fraternity for the FBI, an organization that he publicly praised. Can I get a donut? Oh, no, sorry, I'm not Elvis. I just want a donut. Sorry, did I give it away? Number 3 is Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman's comedy routines went the opposite direction of the standard setup punchline as he took his audience on an emotional roller coaster ride. His routines were complex, like abusive lounge act Tony Clifton, a wrestler who only fought women, and Foreign Man, who butchered his act to unite his audience with flawless Elvis impressions. When he died on May 16, 1984 at 35 years old, it seemed like classic Kaufman that he would one day resurrect with his famous tagline, "Thank you very much." Many of Kaufman's closest confidants, including his own brother Michael and collaborator Bob Zmuda, who wrote The Truth Finally, fed this conspiracy. Well, if he does come back, I'll be super stoked because here he comes to save the day! Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're too kind. Yeah. Number 2 is Kurt Cobain. The Nirvana frontman is part of the exclusive club of rockers who died at the age of 27 when he shot himself in his Seattle home on April 5th, 1994. Cobain was as troubled as he was talented, with a crippling heroin addiction and a tumultuous relationship with his girlfriend Courtney Love. Kurt had a complicated relationship with fame and would rather Nirvana had been just a local Seattle band. The evidence at the scene of the crime was minimal, with a single picture of the body, no fingerprints, and no media at the funeral. Well, it's time to break out your best flannel shirt because Kurt Cobain may have reappeared in 2012 as singer Ramiro Saavedra performing a perfect Come As You Are cover on Peruvian TV talent show Yo Soy, but played his guitar right-handed. Well, this is all up in the air, but one thing we definitely do know is that Courtney Love is a little bit a little out there, you know what I'm saying? So there's no debating that. And number 1 is Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was only 25 when he died, but left a huge cultural impact with his music, acting, and thug life mantra. He was allegedly shot in a drive-by on the Las Vegas Strip and died of internal bleeding on September 13th, 1996. There are countless conspiracy theories why he was killed, including West Coast, East Coast rap beef, Suge Knight orchestrating it, and the FBI snuffing out his dangerous ideas. Conspiracies that Tupac faked his own death are equally fervent because his lyrics predicted his murder and he assumed the moniker Machiavelli, named after the 15th century prince whisperer who wrote, "To fool one's enemies, fake one's death." One theory is that Tupac is alive and well in Cuba with his Black Panther aunt Assata Shakur, who has political asylum there. Number 10 is Harrod's Posh Pot Noodle. If you were ever a student, you're probably well aware of instant soups. They may not be nutritious, but at well under $1 per meal, you can't beat them. But if you're now living lavishly and find yourself craving the good old days, Pot Noodle has you covered. In 2008, the British department store Harrods released a limited edition version of the Pot Noodle. Only 100 of the Posh Pot Noodle's chicken and mushroom flavor were ever made. To add to the Lux factor, each container was decorated decorated with dark green velvet and gold leaf, and came in individual black satin-lined boxes equipped with a fork, cloth napkin, and a napkin ring. Each individual container cost 30 pounds, though Harrods did give all the proceeds to the charity Action Against Hunger. Yes, I did just come here for socks, but can I spend some money on some ridiculous noodles? Number 9 are greeting cards. Okay, I know greeting cards are expensive to begin with, but this takes it to a whole nother level. For those that have some cash to spend, ditch the drugstore card rack and head to Gilded Age Greetings. This Florida-based company, co-founded by artist Rosemary Butek, specializes in handcrafted greeting cards inspired by the Gilded Age of the 1920s and 30s. Their cards are bound with tassels and can be personally designed. They're hand-painted and can be decked out with real diamonds and gems like emeralds and rubies, Swarovski crystals, and gold leaf. And don't expect them to get in any old torn white envelope. No. Every card is presented in a black silk box, along with documentation of its authenticity and a white pair of gloves for handling it with extreme care. These couture cards will set you back $395 each, but their most expensive design can go up to $5,000. Yeah, these are definitely for adults, because you wouldn't want to give one of these to a kid.
Nice card. I just want the money inside. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Number 8 is water and ice. Just because it's all around us doesn't mean you can't put a price on it. A single bottle of Acqua di Cristallo Tributo Modigliani water containing less than 754 milliliters goes for $60,000. It holds the Guinness World Record for the most expensive water sold at auction and is a blend of Icelandic glacier water and a natural spring water from France and Fiji, topped off with a tiny pinch of 23-karat gold dust. Okay, yes, I am just thirsty, but I also want my dookie to twinkle. The handcrafted bottle that it comes in is made from 24-karat gold. But if you thought that was ridiculous, top it all off with some glass luxury ice. The California-based product is known for its individually carved cubes and perfectly spherical ice. It's supposedly specially designed to last in all of your luxury cocktails. But you might not want to use it at your weekend barbecue because one bag containing 50 pieces of the crystal clear ice sells for $325. Hey there, John, are you gonna finish that drink? No? Okay, let me just scoop that ice out there. That's at least 50 bucks worth. Number 7 is a meteorite razor. In 2011, Zafiro, a company in Portland, Oregon, decided to revolutionize the world of shaving, claiming 4 dinky blades just wasn't cutting it. When they created their iridium razor, they used only 2, but that's all the razor needed since the super durable blades were made out of solid white sapphire and incredibly thin at only 80 atoms thick. To put that into perspective, that's 5,000 times smaller than the width of an average hair. Most people's hairs, mine are a little thinner. And the body of the razor itself is just as impressive. It has platinum screws and the handle is made out of 99.95% meteorite. It's one of the rarest and strongest metals on Earth and is usually only used in rocket engines. Only 99 of these razors have ever been made, and it comes with 20 years of servicing. Yeah, and you're gonna need that because these things will set you back $100,000 each. Oh wow, this celestial rock that fell from the heavens is a gift from the stars. I think I'm gonna use it to shave my butt. Number 6 is a golden shirt. In 2013, Data Fuge, a businessman and entrepreneur from India, commissioned Rankar Jewelers to make him a shirt made entirely out of 22-karat gold. The shirt took a team of 15 goldsmiths working 16 hours a day for 2 weeks to finish. Using a special machine, the team used an Italian-style weave to make a golden cloth that was used to make the shirt. The design was inspired by the armor that was worn by Indian kings. It came with a belt and 6 Swarovski crystals for buttons. The final product weighed over 3 kilograms, and he wore it with matching cuffs, chains, and sets of rings. The shirt, which was only worn on special occasions and when he was joined by security, cost Fuge 12.7 million rupees or $250,000 and gained him the nickname the Gold Man. This guy's clearly humble. Hello everyone, yes, I'm here at the party. Don't mind me in my gold shirt. Why are you all looking? I just want to be left alone. Number 5 is a luxury doghouse. In 2008, an unnamed surgeon who has her own £1.4 million home at the exclusive Lower Mill estate at Cotswold Water Park in Gloucestershire, England, commissioned a matching pooch palace for her 2 Great Danes. This extreme home doggy edition, designed by architect Andy Ramos, is built mostly from zinc, glass, and limestone and cost over £250,000. It has 2 bedrooms, a lounge, luxury sheepskin daybeds, and an outdoor play area with CCTV. The pad is temperature controlled, has automated self-cleaning food and water dishes, and a 52-inch TV playing The Dog Whisperer. Oh, but not just anyone is getting through that doggy door, because the front entrance is fitted with a state-of-the-art retina scanner so that no unauthorized dogs can get in. These dogs probably chew on 24-karat gold bones, so the security's a great idea. Very smart. Number 4 is Golden Monopoly. Monopoly, the board game from Hasbro Inc., usually sells for under $25, but in 1988, a one-of-a-kind Monopoly set worth a whopping $2 million broke the bank. The San Francisco-based jeweler Sidney Mobel created it over the course of a whole year for a competition in London honoring the game's 50th anniversary. It featured photo-etched chance and community chest cards and is made up of 165 gemstones, including rubies and sapphires. Then there's the houses and hotels, which were made out of solid 23-karat gold, and the dice had an estimated worth of $10,000 a pop, which is understandable when you consider that the spots were made out of 42 full-cut diamonds. The game is now in the Smithsonian and holds the Guinness World Record for the most expensive Monopoly set ever made. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 because you're broke. You spend all your money on this damn board set. Go to jail. Number 3 is a toilet and toilet paper. Everyone poops! There's a fact for you. Why not treat yourself to the finest toilet money can buy? The Hong Kong-based company Hang Feng Gold Technology Group has a truly golden throne for only, $5 million. The toilet is made entirely from 24-karat gold and is on display in their demonstration washroom at the Hall of Gold, which also happens to be made entirely of gold, including gold bars in the floor. But if that wasn't enough to make you feel like you're living the high life, you can really make your bathroom visits a treat with some seriously swanky toilet paper. The Australian company The Toilet Paper Man has a 3-ply roll, also made from 24-karat gold, available for just over 1.5 million Australian dollars. Oh, but they've only ever managed to make one, so you better jump on that deal now. Oh, plus it comes with a bottle of champagne. Oh, wiping your butt with metal shards. That sounds lovely. Definitely gonna need that champagne for the pain. Number 2 is stationery. You can get a box of ballpoint pens for just under $10 right now, but they've got nothing on the Fulgor Nocturnus fountain pen by the Florentine brand Tibaldi. The one-of-a-kind item is encrusted with 945 black diamonds and 123 rubies. The design was inspired by the divine proportion of phi, aka the golden ratio of 1.618, which is found all through nature. When closed, the pen's cap and the visible portion of the barrel are equal to the phi ratio. In 2010, the pen was sold at auction for, brace yourself for this, $8 million. It's a pen, but if you need to staple all those papers that you're signing with your fancy new pen, you can always opt for the Dutch design brand OOOMS, who has 14-karat staples. A box of only 24 staples costs around $120. Sure, that's more than a box of 3,000 for $5, $5 at your local office supply store, but can you really put a price on stationery-based luxury? Cause everybody needs it. And number 1 is an iPhone. While your next cell phone will likely range in price between $100 to $1,000, the rich are looking for phones that cost more than a house. So they turn to UK designer Stuart Hughes and his high-class devices. In 2013, Hughes created the world's most expensive iPhone 5 for an astronomical $15.3 million. The iPhone was commissioned by a Chinese businessman and was made from 24 karat gold with a sapphire glass screen and 53 white diamonds making up the Apple logo. But what really set it apart was the rare 26 karat black diamond that had been passed down in the man's family in place of the home button, inlaid with 600 white diamonds. But you know, if that's a little too rich for your blood, you can always go for the 24 karat diamond encrusted iPhone 4S. They're only about $7.7 million, you know, if you're on a budget. Number 10 is Albrecht Dürer treatment of the paralytic. Albrecht Dürer was a German Renaissance painter and printmaker who once declared, "Be cursed plunderers and imitators of the work and talent of others." Well, this ended up being ironic because 125 years after Dürer's death in 1653, Italian Baroque painter Luca Giordano painted his own Dürer, which sold for 600 crowns, that's about $120,000 today. Giordano had the nickname Luke fa presto, meaning Luke hurry in Italian, because he was a fast painter that could paint new works in great artist style in as little as 2 days. He was never busted, but later admitted he painted this Dürer and was sued, although the lawsuit was dismissed because Giordano's painting was declared every bit as good as the original master. In fact, the painting now hangs in the Greek National Gallery in Athens and is attributed to Giordano and not Dürer. Well, yeah, I know it's his style, but I did it better, so give me the money. Number 9 is Johannes Vermeer, The Supper at Emmaus. Johannes Vermeer was a 17th century Dutch painter known for interior scenes. Like many great artists, Vermeer died penniless in obscurity, only to be rediscovered later and declared a master. In the aftermath of World War II, the Allied Art Commission came to the studio of unknown Dutch artist Han van Meegeren, who had sold Vermeer's The Supper of Emmaus to a Nazi. He refused to identify its original owner and was arrested for treason. Facing the firing squad, the Dutchman confessed to duping the art world that he despised by forging the Vermeer and countless other works. During his trial, he painted a brand new Vermeer to prove he was the forger. This one's extra weird because he went from hack to Nazi conspirator to folk hero for swindling the Nazis. That's just confusing. Number 8 is Paul Gauguin, The Faun. Like Vermeer, French post-impressionist Eugene-Henri Paul Gauguin was underappreciated until after his death. Gauguin was a pioneer of symbolism and famed for his depictions of primitive life in French Polynesia. His half-man, half-goat ceramic sculpture was rediscovered and authenticated, sold for millions, and displayed at the Art Institute of Chicago for 10 years. The Institute hailed it as one of their greatest acquisitions, as it was thought to be Gauguin's first ceramic and was shown alongside Van Gogh. However, as you probably guessed, the faun was later revealed to be a forgery when the British Greenlaw family were implicated in the sale of a fake ancient Egyptian antiquity. Scotland Yard traced the fake sculpture from Sotheby's auction house to the mother of master forger Sean Greenlaw, who had the whole family involved. Okay, mama, you gonna do the painting? Daddy, you gonna do the sculpting? And I'm gonna sit back and just tell y'all what to do. Let's make some money. Number 7 is Ancient Roman Sleeping Eros. In 1496, a marble statue in the Hellenistic tradition of a sleeping Cupid from ancient Rome was sold to the grandnephew of Pope Sixtus IV. However, the cardinal was suspicious that it was fake, so he sent an agent to Florence to investigate the rumors of an unknown artist named Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti making preliminary sketches and aging the brand new sculpture in acidic earth. The agent came to Michelangelo's studio demanding a refund, but recognized the starving artist's talent and let him keep the money. The cardinal actually became Michelangelo's first patron, inviting him to Rome to work. Michelangelo went on to become a Renaissance MVP, famed for his ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, the sculpture of David, and of course the name of the pizza-loving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Number 6 is Samuel Palmer Sussex Landscape. Samuel Palmer is one of Britain's most celebrated landscape artists, portraying pre-industrial UK and a key figure in the 19th century Romanticism movement. However, the Times of London dropped a bombshell article back in 1970 declaring many of Palmer's most revered and valuable paintings were forgeries. A Cockney house painter named Tom Keating stepped forward to take the credit for the Palmer forgeries, as well as approximately 2,000 other paintings from art heavyweights like Degas, Modigliani, and Rembrandt. Keating even left time bombs in his fakes, giving clues that they were forgeries to embarrass the art world that dismissed his talents as hacky. Time bomb, I actually used pee in the paint, so go ahead and smell that, you're welcome. But his forgeries are now collectible in their own right, and his notoriety landed him his own British TV show in the 1980s, where he taught viewers how to mimic the masters. Oh, crime doesn't pay, it's terrible. Sometimes it does. Don't commit crimes, kids, but sometimes it does. Number 5 is Amedeo Modigliani, Portrait of a Sitting Woman. Amedeo Modigliani modernized two of art's great themes, the portrait and the nude painting, with elongated mask-like faces inspired by African art. Modigliani's work sells at the same price point as Picasso, north of $100 million, but sales are problematic because he is one of the most forged artists. Hungarian painter Elmir Dohori is considered to be the greatest forger of our time and created over 1,000 fakes. He created mostly Modigliani as well as Degas, Picasso, and Matisse. He was so good, he also copied experts' authenticity stamps and falsified documents for provenance, but his long con was discovered long after he amassed a tidy fortune. Dohori later signed the back of his forgeries with the name Elmir and appeared in Orson Welles' 1973 film F is for Fake, a mind-bending documentary that was also a fake. Kinda makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is this video fake? Do I even exist? Losing it! Number 4 is Claude Monet, Lily's Morning Effect. Claude Monet is one of the great masters whose works defined the Impressionist era. However, John Myatt is a 20th century British artist who could mimic not only Monet, but Renoir, Picasso, and Matisse to near perfection. At first, he signed his own name to paintings so that people knew they were fakes. But in the 1980s, Myatt needed money and was convinced by con artist art dealer John Drew to copy almost 200 great works of art that were sold by the great auction houses of London. And this would have been great, except that Drew's bitter ex-wife tipped off the authorities to their scam, who called Myatt the biggest art fraud of the 20th century. Myatt ended up serving time for fraud, but became a celebrity, appearing on the UK TV show Mastering the Art, and still sells his genuine fakes for plenty of money. Oh, that works? Oh, like I said, this is the real Mona Lisa. Come on, somebody buy it. AdSense is down. Number 3 is Charles Courtney Curran, Three Women. Charles Courtney Curran was an early American Impressionist answer to Renoir, known for his masterful portraits of women in nature. Mark Landis was not a well-known artist, but a failed art gallerist whose greatest accomplishment was restoring others' art. However, Landis was also a schizophrenic who desperately wanted to be recognized by the art world, so he concocted a scheme to forge great American masters like Curran. He painted right over digital reproductions using materials he bought at Home Depot and then donated the works to American museums, universities, and institutions. Landis also used elaborate alter egos like a priest driving a big red Cadillac.
Hello everybody, God be with you. I'm forging artwork. What? I didn't say that.
And he did all that until 2007, when some museums examined his donations and declared them forgeries. But since Landis never accepted money or tax credits, he technically didn't break the law and nothing happened.
But he did make it onto a top 10 list. I didn't do too bad. Not bad.
Number 2 is Max Ernst, The Forest. Max Ernst was a prolific early 20th century German artist and provocateur, credited as one of the founders of Dada and Surrealism. Unfortunately, gullible art critic and Ernst expert Werner Spies validated The Forest, which sold for $7 million in 2006 and hung in the Max Ernst Museum. But the painting was a fake, created by German Wolfgang Beltracchi, whose forgery gang put $48.6 million worth of fake art into circulation. He claimed many of the paintings were from his wife's grandmother's art collection, which would have been amazing, except nobody has that much art, man. But karma eventually caught up with Beltracchi when one of his forgeries was carbon tested and revealed titanium dioxide white, which was unavailable when Ernst painted. See, there's no fool in the system. Except there is, and eventually you'll get caught. But eventually, there's no fooling the system. And number 1 is Heinrich Campendonck, Landscape with Horses. In 2011, actor and comedian Steve Martin was also scammed by that rascally Beltracchi gang when he purchased Heinrich Campendonck's Landscape with Horses. Campendonck was a lesser-known German-Dutch modernist whose work was deemed degenerate by the Nazis.
Yeah, that's ironic. Oh, you're degenerate. You're a bad, bad man.
The famed funny man bought the painting that was supposedly painted in 1915 for $850,000, only to discover later that he bought a fake painting and resold it through Christie's auction house at a loss of $500,000. Number 10 is the Ashley Madison hack. The Ashley Madison hack is perhaps the most embarrassing cyber attack of all. In 2015, the company Ashley Madison discovered that its private servers had been accessed by a hacking group known as the Impact Team. This group then threatened to release all of the information that they had to the public if Ashley Madison did not shut down the company. The reason for this was that Ashley Madison specialized in allowing married people to have affairs discreetly. Ashley Madison refused to shut down, and so 25 gigabytes of user data was released, and this exposed Ashley Madison's users publicly. It was also revealed that only 12,000 of the 5.5 million registered users were female, and most of those were created from a fake IP address. Cheated by the cheaters. I guess not all cyber attacks are that bad. Number 9 is the Mafia Boy attack. Mafia Boy was the alternate ego of Michael Kals, who, in 2000, caused substantial damage to a series of high-profile websites, including Amazon, eBay, and Yahoo. He did this through a series of distributed denial-of-service attacks. Abbreviated as DDoS, this type of attack is a common tactic involving overwhelming websites with queries to the point that they no longer function. Mafia Boy used this approach and rendered its targets useless for hours. This resulted in millions of dollars worth of lost revenue. Naming the attack Project Revolta, Kals was revealed to be a high school student at the time, obsessed with making a name for himself as a hacker. And he got that popularity, and I'm sure he's gonna be just as popular when he's bending over in jail. Well, he didn't actually go to jail. After being sentenced to 1 year probation, Kals published a book about his experiences. And they say crime doesn't pay. Number 8 is the Soviet pipeline explosion. The 1982 Soviet pipeline incident involved a computer attack which was directly responsible for a massive explosion. During the Cold War, the Soviets attempted to steal computer software used to oversee pump valves in gas pipes. Knowing this, the CIA deliberately placed a Trojan virus inside their software. When the Soviets attempted to use the software to operate a massive gas pipeline in Siberia, the Trojan horse took control of the valves and closed them. This created massive amounts of pressure, the result being the largest non-nuclear explosion ever seen from space. Unbelievably and thankfully, there were no casualties, but the CIA achieved their dream of disrupting the Soviet gas industry, which had massive economic implications for them. Well, at least we're all friends now, right? Right? Number 7 is the Sony hack. Also known as the Sony picture hack, this 2014 cyber attack allegedly from North Korea made international headlines. At the time, Sony Pictures was pushing forward with a film about the North Korean regime called The Interview. Painting the North Korean chain of command in a poor light to say the least, North Korea threatened that there would be dire consequences if the film was ever released. Oh, and consequences there were. Hackers were able to download private emails from Sony servers along with copies of unreleased films and personal details of Sony employees and their families. Some of the information released was extremely damaging for Sony, including private insults made at the expense of some of its stars. In one email, a Sony producer referred to Angelina Jolie as a minimally talented spoiled brat. Oh, ouch. Number 6 is the Yahoo theft. Some cyber attacks are so effective that the victims don't even know that it's happening until years later. Well, that was the case with Yahoo. The one-time most popular search engine in the world has seen a number of instances where user data has been stolen by hackers. In 2014, an estimated 500 million accounts were hacked. This gave hackers access to usernames, passwords, as well as other sensitive material which could be used to commit identity fraud. But unbelievably, it took Yahoo 4 years to discover that an even bigger hack had taken place during 2013. When they finally discovered the theft, they estimated that as many as 1 billion user accounts had been compromised. These historic hacks were so large that even the US Senate decided to investigate them. And to this day, nobody knows who was responsible for them or if they'll strike again. Maybe it's because it's Yahoo, and if any of you are still using Yahoo, you kind of deserve it. What's wrong with you? Number 5 is the Shamoon virus. Security experts warn that energy suppliers could be targeted by hackers. Such an attack could render a country immobile. Imagine no electricity. But this isn't a purely hypothetical situation. Hackers have already targeted energy suppliers in the past. For example, the Shamoon virus was developed in 2012 and was released by a group of hackers known as Cutting Swords of Justice. Okay, that's actually kind of a badass name, the Cutting Swords of Justice? The virus was used to undermine the energy company Saudi Aramco. When the virus was unleashed, it infected more than 30,000 computers at the company, shutting down their entire network. Then, to make things worse, the virus spread to other energy companies. But the most interesting thing is that if such an attack happened today, it's still unclear how quickly a power grid would even recover. Too many kids growing up with these dang computers. No more Minecraft for you. Number 4 is Titan Rain. It was during the early 2000s that cyber attacks began to ramp up, with Titan Rain being one of the most notorious. This virus targeted American computer networks and affected a number of US government contractors such as Redstone Arsenal and Lockheed Martin. Not exactly small names. And it even spread to NASA. Titan Rain's main objective was to gather intel from these organizations. And that sounds dangerous to me because I don't know what kind of space secrets that NASA's holding, maybe there's aliens. The virus sought out and transmitted sensitive data to an unknown source. This most likely included highly classified technology that was still under development. What is that, a shrink gun? I'm short enough as is, nope. The UK also found itself under attack from Titan Rain and firmly pointed the finger at China as a source. This created a serious international incident as the British Ministry of Defense struggled to hold on to its classified files. Where's James Bond when you need him? Moneypenny, is that a virus? I'm not good with computers. Meh. Number 3 is Operation Shady Rat. This one might win the award for best named hack. In 2008, a startling claim was made by a group of hackers that no website was safe. This might seem like common knowledge today, but back then, many government and consumer websites spread the idea that emerging online systems were unhackable. A group of hardcore hackers from China put this claim to the test. The hackers numbered more than 10,000 and claimed to have hacked every website imaginable, even the Pentagon. They also alleged that they were occasionally hired by the Chinese government to carry out such cyber attacks. After claiming that they had been able to access some of the most top secret documents in the United States, the Pentagon then conceded that its systems had been bypassed a number of times. The myth of the unhackable website was dispelled and people started fearing nerds everywhere. The meek shall inherit the earth. Number 2 is the Kuji and DataStream Cowboy. In 1994, two hackers going by the names of Kuji and DataStream Cowboy, by the way, best names ever, managed to infiltrate so many US military systems that they could have potentially started a nuclear war. By outthinking the Pentagon's security protocols, both men gained access to battlefield simulation, which laid bare US strategies. They also intercepted sensitive information sent by undercover agents in North Korea. And possibly most worryingly, the hackers gained access to a research facility in South Korea which held information about atomic research. Of the two men, Kuji was the most dangerous, and according to Special Agent Jim Christie, he nearly started a third world war. Oh, and by the way, this was all achieved with a Commodore Amiga. Gotta look out for these retro gamers. And number 1 is WannaCry. The WannaCry cyber attack is perhaps the most devastating and far-reaching hack seen so far. It used ransomware which shut down computer systems completely. The hackers then offered to unlock these systems for a price. The crazy thing is that this blackmail was on a global scale. WannaCry affected an unprecedented 230,000 computers around the world across 150 different countries. Hackers demanded $600 worth of cryptocurrency for each computer which was blocked. But in a bizarre twist of fate, many believe that WannaCry was based on a US government program called Eternal Blue, which had been leaked publicly not long before. But the most damaging aspect of this attack was that it shut down 70,000 computers at the British National Health Service and resulted in some patients having to postpone treatment. Listen, calling all white hat, gray hat, black hat hackers, whatever you want to be, just don't dick with people's lives. You know what I'm saying? If you want to just test security or steal some money, that's one thing, but don't hurt people. You're gonna make me cry. Number 10 is Ulysses S. Grant. When it comes to weird presidential secrets, Ulysses S. Grant is a great place to start, because he had a bunch of them. Grant is an iconic figure in American history. He became commanding general of the US Army, led campaigns during the Civil War, and he was the 18th president of the United States from 1869 until 1877. Even though he had a reputation as a brilliant general and soldier, he secretly hated wearing a uniform. In fact, he would secretly enter battle dressed really scruffily. And what's possibly even more surprising is that Grant was terrified at the sight of blood, which you'd think would be a real problem for someone involved in some of the bloodiest battles in United States history. On top of all that, he didn't have a middle name. That's right, even though people called him Ulysses S. Grant, the S was a typo which followed him everywhere. Man, that's a whole lot of weirdness. Being afraid of blood in a battle, that's like me being afraid of facts. Number 1 is ha ha. Number 9 is Calvin Coolidge. According to the 1998 book White House Confidential, President Calvin Coolidge had a bizarre morning ritual which he kept secret due to the embarrassment surrounding this routine. Coolidge was the 30th president of the United States and served from August 1923 to March 1929. He was known as a man of decisive action and embodied the spirit and hopes of the middle class. But he also had a strange and kind of dark secret. In the morning, while he was having breakfast, he liked to have petroleum jelly massaged into his scalp. Oh yes, that makes me a happy president. Coolidge believed that there were massive health benefits to be gained from this strange practice, and so he continued it even though those around him looked on in disbelief. As vices go, it's weird, but it would have been much worse if he liked putting petroleum jelly on other people instead. Come here, staff members, I've got a treat for you. Number 8 is William Howard Taft. William Howard Taft served as the 27th President of the United States between 1909 and 1913. He is also the only person to have held both the office of the President of the United States and the Chief Justice of the entire country. Many of his policies involved intervening in foreign affairs in order to prop up governments which were sympathetic towards US interests. But despite having a long and successful political career, there's one embarrassing story that he wished had kept secret. Taft was known for being overweight, and apparently one night in the White House after soaking in a bath, he was unable to get himself out.
Shouldn't have had that extra turkey leg.
After being stuck, it's said that wherever the 350-pound Taft would go, an extra large bathtub would have to be readily available. Fun fact for all the viewers out there, no judgment, but if you ever get so big that you get stuck in a bathtub, time to make some life changes. Number 7 is Lyndon Johnson. It's widely believed that President Lyndon Johnson, who served after John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, was obsessed with being the greatest president of all time. In fact, many believe that he was bitter towards his predecessor about how popular he was. This desire to be more popular and dominate people's opinions was evident in a number of strange behaviors that he exhibited, and he desperately wanted them kept from the public. For example, he often used crass behavior to shock people and intimidate them. This included spitting and swearing at people or just laughing in their faces. It's said that he once even relieved himself on a Secret Service man. He would even often continue conversations by pulling people into the toilet with him so that they would have to watch as they continued the conversation. Classy. Number 6 is Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the 7th President of the United States and served between 1829 and 1837. He believed in fighting against a corrupt elite which endangered the Union. He also had a famous career as a general in the US Army. But like the other presidents on this list, he had not so much a weird secret, but a dark secret. At that time, divorce was frowned upon, and Jackson had married a divorcee named Rachel long before he took office. Not only was she divorced, but it was rumored that she and Jackson had lived together before she was legally separated from her first husband. Newspapers jumped on this scandal and called her a bigamist and an adulteress, using the rumor to attack Jackson's run at the presidency. Rachel passed away 3 months before Jackson took office, and he always blamed his opponents for her death. Okay, that one was a lot more dark than weird, but still, at the time, considered very weird, and he definitely had a right to be salty. Number 5 is John Quincy Adams. John Quincy Adams was the 6th President of the United States and served from 1825 until 1829. He was an extremely successful politician, so as you might assume, he was pragmatic, down to earth, and not prone to flights of fancy, right? Yeah, I'm afraid not. The 6th President believed in a hollow earth theory, which argued that the earth had a huge cavern at its center. Not only that, but that there was also a giant hole at the North Pole which led to this subterranean world. A world which John Quincy Adams also believed was inhabited by mole people. But you know, not the weird kind of mole people, more like the garden variety mole people. He actually at one point approved a secret expedition to find this underground world. Not only that, but he attempted to contact the hypothetical mole people that he believed lived down there in order to make sure that the United States was the first country to sign a trade agreement with them. America first. Number 4 is George Washington. As the first president of the United States, George Washington is held up by many as one of the greatest leaders the country has ever produced. That being said, he had a number of weird secrets that were only revealed after his death. One of these included that George Washington grew hemp. Now granted, this is the non-psychoactive form of cannabis. It was used to produce all manner of goods including rope and paper. However, it is now believed that George Washington also grew the psychoactive cannabis for his own recreational use. The idea that one of the country's most important founding fathers smoked cannabis recreationally remains a sore point for conservatives who are against the legalization of cannabis, but who also hold the founding fathers in such high esteem. Get it? High esteem? Pun life. Number 3 is George Bush Sr. One of the most bizarre diplomatic incidents which ever happened to a president definitely qualifies as a weird secret. I mean, after all, who would want everyone to know that they'd been sick on another world leader? Well, that's exactly what happened to George H.W. Bush. In 1992, President Bush attended an evening hosted by the Prime Minister of Japan. The room was filled with 135 other important diplomats who had been welcomed to the Japanese Prime Minister's home. But during the event, President Bush began to feel ill and actually collapsed. That's when his head fell into the lap of the Prime Minister and he threw up all over him. But this secret wasn't kept for very long, and the Japanese coined the term Bush-suru, which means to do the Bush thing. Apparently the Bush thing is to throw up all over your host, so don't Bush-suru. Number 2 is Ronald Reagan. We all know what it's like for family members to do something embarrassing, but for a world leader, such an event can cause real problems, and that's why they'd preferred to keep it a secret. And that's exactly what happened to Ronald Reagan. Reagan was the 40th president of the United States and served from 1981 to 1989. But just 5 years after his presidency ended, his own daughter, Patty Davis, became a Playboy playmate. She posed on the front cover of Playboy magazine, and worse still, she posed nude. This was one of the most controversial issues in Playboy's history, and the Reagan estate has since tried to brush it under the carpet as best they can. But Ronald Reagan was actually lucky in a way that it didn't happen while he was the sitting president, because at that time, that kind of a scandal would have tarnished his polished family man demeanor. Hello everyone, I'm the president. Yes, this is my daughter whose boobies you can freely see right now in a magazine. Lunch? And number 1 is Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was the president between 1977 and 1981. He achieved a lot in his life, including being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize and helping to fight debilitating illnesses in Africa. Despite these achievements though, some remember him as the UFO president. Carter stated that in 1969 he encountered a UFO. He was the governor of Georgia at the time and reported the sighting. While campaigning to be elected, Carter pledged to release all information on UFO sightings, making anything the government knew available to the public. However, he later tried to distance himself from that pledge and his earlier sighting by claiming that there were defense implications if he were to reveal everything that the government knew. Number 10 is Kellogg's cereals. As one of America's most trusted brands, you would think that Kellogg's would be an honest and dependable company, but unfortunately, the breakfast food maker has been under fire for misleading advertising by the Federal Trade Commission not once, but twice. In 2009, a message was added to the front of Kellogg's Mini Wheats boxes, which claimed that eating the cereal was clinically proven to increase a child's attentiveness by 20%, a claim that was obviously false. If that was true, you'd see a lot more kids popping Mini Wheats instead of pills. Kellogg's had to shell out $4 million to pay back those who purchased the product, but in 2010, a similar message appeared on Rice Krispies, this one claiming that the cereal would boost a child's immunity. The company was forced to remove all the ads by the FTC and had to agree to new advertising restrictions for future campaigns. Yeah, besides all that, it sounds better just to say snap, crackle, pop as opposed to immunity, smarts, and attentiveness. Number 9 is the iPhone 3G. In 2008, Apple released the iPhone 3G with an ad campaign that promised it was twice as fast for half the price, a statement that actually had 2 lies in it. While many users were satisfied with the device, a number of them pointed out that not only was the price way higher than half price, but the phone's speed was incredibly disappointing. Several lawsuits were actually filed against the corporation for misleading advertisements. But in a surprising turn of events, Apple actually released a legal response, which, among 31 other points, declared that the claims in their ads were so outrageous that no reasonable person in a plaintiff's position could have reasonably relied on or misunderstood Apple's statements as claims or fact, which essentially means you shouldn't take everything you hear in Apple commercials as fact. I think the mistake they made here is assuming that everybody has common sense, which we all know is not so common. There's a lot of special people out there. Number 8 is Listerine. Science can be a tricky thing, especially when it comes to bias science that's conducted solely to sell merchandise. A prime example involves Listerine mouthwash, which was promoted by the then parent company Pfizer's marketing team back in 2005 as an excellent replacement for flossing. Soon after seeing the ad, a division of Johnson & Johnson that sold dental floss filed a lawsuit declaring the message Listerine was pushing was misleading and that dentists had been recommending flossing daily for years. Research shows still today that rinsing with mouthwash is definitely not a substitute for flossing. But the thing is, this lie didn't just sell plenty of mouthwash, but was labeled a potential public health risk. Pfizer was actually forced to pull every ad that contained the false claim. Again, that's just kind of common sense, especially if you talk to my grandma. She's been telling me for the last 30 years, make sure you floss, honey, every day. Number 7 is Nokia's Lumia 920. In September of 2012, an online video advertisement for Nokia's new phone, the Lumia 920, was released, showcasing the amazing new stabilization technology that it had within it as it recorded a woman riding a bike. It looked fantastic and really got people's attention, especially when eagle-eyed viewers pointed out that a window's reflection behind the rider caught the camera operator and the camera that they were operating on. The camera was a very large video camera, not the phone that they were trying to advertise. A number of people cried foul, leading to a Nokia spokesperson issuing a public apology. They admitted that the ad was definitely misleading, but claimed that their intent was to simulate what the phone could do, not show actual footage. Oh, of course, why would they want to do that? Give an idea of what people would actually be getting. Who knows? Number 6 are Hoover vacuums. If you're wondering if offering ridiculous perks for individual purchases is a good idea, let the story of the Hoover vacuum fiasco dissuade you. In 1992, the British division of the Hoover Company announced a promotion which promised 2 free round-trip tickets to anywhere in Europe or the United States, so long as the customer spent over £100 on any Hoover product. However, the company didn't have the tickets or even enough appliances to meet the demand of over 200,000 buyers who were more interested in the ridiculously cheap airfare than the vacuums themselves. Trapped by their own lies, Hoover tried to hold off customers demanding their tickets, but in 1998 they were ordered to pay over £48 million to those people. Numerous executives were fired and the division was sold off to another company. Honey, look what I got for anniversary, it's a vacuum! Psych, it's actually a round-trip ticket. And it was a scam, so here's just the vacuum. Number 5 are Skechers. If you're looking to become a healthier you and have decided to start jogging or simply walking, then you're going to need to get yourself a good pair of running shoes. But maybe avoid any shoe that claims it's going to literally burn the calories for you.
Okay, I'm wearing the sneakers. I think I feel the burn.
Now this isn't a warning that normal people should have to receive, but in early 2012, it was one that they sure could have benefited from. This is because in May of 2012, shoe company Skechers reached a $40 million settlement with the FTC, promising to pay the money back to those who bought their shape-up shoes, which the company initially claimed would help sneaker wearers lose weight. Skechers even had a chiropractor endorse the shoes, claiming that he'd done an independent study. Yeah, the trouble is that he was married to a Skechers marketing rep. Yeah, I don't know, this whole thing sounds sketchy. I'm sorry, I had to, it was low-hanging fruit. Number 4 is Olay. As most of you know, it's a common practice in making magazine ads that a little retouching is done. Maybe correct the lighting or bring the contrast up a bit. Basically make the product or service being advertised appear in the best light possible. However, if you're a major makeup company advertising de-aging cream and that retouching includes making your model seem even younger than physically possible, then maybe you're doing something wrong. That's what several British lawmakers decided in December of 2009 when they accused Olay, a company under the the Procter & Gamble flag of purposely misleading their customers. The ad, which was for Olay's Definity Eye Cream, was banned by the UK's Advertising Standards Authority. Olay was allegedly not fined, but issued an apology for their poor decisions. Oh yes, spread this cream on your face, you'll be 20 years younger. Or you'll just spend a lot of money on useless cream, but you never know. Number 3 are one-a-day vitamins. Bayer's insanely popular multivitamin One A Day has been on pharmacy shelves since 1940. However, what was once a seemingly wholesome brand focused on helping people stay healthy has more recently become a dishonest one, more focused on the almighty dollar than consumers. In October of 2010, the states of California, Illinois, and Oregon sued Bayer, citing research that revealed that selenium, an ingredient in the multivitamins that the company claimed helped reduce prostate cancer, actually had no effect on the illness. Bayer actually used the fear of men's prostate cancer to sell more of men's vitamins, when they allegedly knew that the product wasn't fighting it. So they settled for a fine of $3.3 million and agreed to no longer claim that one-a-day vitamins prevented any disease. Seriously folks, if you think that multivitamins are gonna do anything other than give you a little energy boost and make you pee bright yellow, you're mistaken. Number 2 are cigarettes. Believe it or not, there was actually a time when cigarette companies were allowed to say just about anything about their products, and surprisingly, that included a bold-faced lie that smoking was actually good for you. Seriously. Back in the 1920s, advertisements started showing up in the form of posters and magazine inserts that claimed that doctors supported smoking in large numbers. One ad put out by Lucky Strike Cigarettes stated that 20,679 physicians say that Luckies are less irritating, implying that doctors were recommending cigarettes while other ads outright claimed not to be harmful at all. It was later revealed that many of the doctors who appeared in respected publications were not physicians at all, but instead actors. Then of course, shockingly, it was proven that cigarettes are terrible for you. News that upset many people. Really though, nobody ever thought, geez, you know, the fact that my mouth, my teeth, and my nails are turning yellow, that's not healthy, because I thought that was a sign of health. And number 1 are miracle drugs. Before you go shelling out loads of cash for that all-natural weight loss drug, maybe do more research than watching a TV doc's talk show. On June 17, 2014, Dr. Mehmet Oz appeared before the United States Senate's Consumer Protection Panel, where he confessed that the language that he used while discussing the miracle products that were featured on his show was simply flowery, and that he did not believe that there was any real miracle pill out there in the world. See, the trouble with that is that Dr. Oz was a cardiothoracic surgeon before becoming a television personality, and thus his endorsement carries more weight than a fictional doctor. A number of pills and specific food products that he pushed sold like crazy in a market already rife with false hope for a slimmer waist, and Dr. Oz found himself in hot water because of it. Number 1 is Ruben Zarate. On March 24, 2008, 18-year-old Ruben Zarate walked into Velazquez Mufflers for Less in Chicago, Illinois at about 8 o'clock in the morning, wearing a mask and waving around a revolver while he was demanding money. The employees working there at the time explained that they had very little money and that they couldn't open the safe due to the fact that nobody knew the combination outside of the owner of the shop. Now, seeing as how the owner wasn't going to be there until much later that day, it seemed unfortunately that he was out of luck. However, determined to get his quick payday, the young man wrote down 2 phone numbers that he could be reached at and gave them to the man at the front desk, demanding that they call him the moment that the owner returned. Of course, instead, the employees called the police, and officers came to the shop in plain clothes, telling employees to call the man back. Once Zarate returned and pulled a gun out of his sweatshirt, police shot first and wounded him in the leg. He was charged the very next day with attempted robbery and aggravated assault of a police officer. Oh man, the safe is locked? Okay, well here's my number, my social insurance number, and my address. Call me later, okay. Number 2 is Derek Mosley. You know what they say, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, or at least bring more than a bat. On July 25th, 2013, 22-year-old Derek Mosley walked into a gun shop called Discount Gun Sales, located in Beaverton, Oregon, with nothing else but a baseball bat in his hand. Yeah, a gun shop. He smashed one of the glass display cases in order to steal a gun, but somehow never stopped to think that the shop's owner, clearly a gun enthusiast, might actually have a gun on him. Sure enough, the store manager pulled out his firearm, pointed it at Mosley, and demanded for him to get down on the ground. Other than pooping his pants, Mosley dropped the unloaded gun and knife and followed the instructions without incident. When police arrived, they found Mosley on the floor and arrested him immediately, charging him with first-degree robbery, first-degree theft, second-degree criminal mischief, and, naturally, unlawful possession of a firearm.
Ha, you a stupid son of a bitch!
Number 3 is Joey Miller and Matthew McNelly. On October 23rd of 2009, before attempting to rob a home in Carroll, Iowa, 23-year-old Matthew McNelly and 20-year-old Joey Miller decided instead of hiding their identities the traditional way, using masks or pantyhose, they would use permanent black marker. So they got a couple of Sharpies and scribbled all over their faces to disguise themselves. Oh man, brilliant. Nobody should have been able to recognize them, right? Well, the thing is, the problem with permanent marker is, permanent. After a call came in about the attempted burglary and suspects escaping in a vehicle, police managed to stop a car fitting the description, and they were absolutely shocked by what they saw. There were Miller and McNelly, still with marker on their faces. Appropriately nicknamed Dumb and Dumber, the two were charged with attempted burglary, and since the two were allegedly intoxicated at the time, McNelly was also charged with driving under the influence. Number 4 is Christian Bala. After his body was found in a stream in Wrocław, Poland in 2000, local small business owner Dariusz Janicki's murder went unsolved. That was until 2003 when police came across Amok, a book written by Polish author Christian Bala. In the book, the character was murdered in the same way that the man was, described using information that only the true killer would be aware of, as investigators never released it to the media. After further investigation, police found numerous other similarities between Bala and the book's main antagonist, Chris. As it turns out, Bala was the murderer and the book was a chronicling of what he did. He was arrested in 2007 and was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the planning and committing of the murder of Dariusz Janicki. But interestingly, his book sales ended up exploding because of his conviction. Yeah, I guess that's one way to sell a book. Number 5 is Darren Kimpton. If you've got over 36 convictions for breaking and entering and burglary, odds are pretty good that you're probably terrible at it. Specifically the getting away part. Someone should have told 49-year-old Darren Kimpton that a long time ago before he decided to break into the same house twice in one night. While trying to break into a Northampton, England home on December 22nd, 2012, Kimpton cut himself, leaving some blood on the door lock. Wanting nothing more than to steal items to sell in order to buy Christmas presents for his parents, he went to try breaking into the same house again. What he failed to notice, however, was that police were already on the property, as the homeowner had already obviously called the police. After putting his hand through the already broken window and trying to let himself in, the police watched him enter.
Look at this stupid fool. You got this on camera? Yeah, I got the Billy Bat. We taking this fool down.
Following a brief struggle, Kimpton was caught and tests later confirmed that the blood on the house's lock was indeed his. Well, I really hope Darren's parents enjoy their soap and cigarette Christmas gift. Number 6 is Quentin J. Thomas. On December 27, 2005, 20-year-old Stephen Kelly of Maryland was shot in the back of the head and killed during a robbery gone wrong. Shortly after, 22-year-old Quentin J. Thomas was arrested and charged with the murder. While awaiting his trial, Thomas sent out some letters to his friends on the outside. Now, what you need to understand is that at the Montgomery County Jail, only incoming mail was checked, mostly for contraband. Outgoing mail was not. Knowing this, Thomas was confident that by writing down instructions to stop certain people from testifying would be received without anybody intercepting it. Man, Quentin, you're a super genius. You brilliant. Except for the fact that when you put incriminating orders in writing and then misspell the address on the envelope, oh, that's not good. The letter arrived back to the prison marked return to sender. And of course, as incoming mail to the prison, it was opened by guards guards and Thomas was busted. It was added to the prosecutor's evidence and Thomas was later sentenced to life without parole. Number 7 is Frank Singleton. In March of 2008, 21-year-old Frank Singleton was released from a Florida County jail after serving time for a misdemeanor trespassing charge. Realizing that his journey home would require nearly a 6.2-mile-long hike, he decided to take a shortcut by carjacking someone and driving their car home. That someone was 23-year-old Justine Lapierre, who cooperated with the ex-con when handing over the keys when he demanded them. Yeah, see, the problem is though, sadly for Singleton, he didn't get very far because, as it turns out, the car that he'd stolen was a 2006 Nissan 350Z, a car that had a manual transmission. Since he didn't know how to drive stick, Singleton was unable to operate the vehicle and was immediately arrested. Now, you might be asking yourself, but Matt, how did he get caught so quick? Why didn't he just run away? Well, it turns out that the car that he stole was parked in the jail visitors parking lot. Yeah, that's right. He walked out of jail a free man, got lazy, and tried carjacking a car right out of a police parking lot. He literally wound up right back in his cell, now charged with carjacking, and all because he didn't feel like walking. Oh, you lazy, oh, you stupid. Oh, got a bit of cough. Number 8 is James Allen. As any experienced shoplifter will tell you, it's never a good idea to hit the same place twice, but that clearly was never advice heard by this guy. After successfully robbing a corner store on February 23, 2012, 28-year-old James Allen returned to rob the same shop on March 2nd, only 10 days later. The second time, however, things didn't exactly go as planned. After waving a plastic gun and grabbing some cash from the till, Allen tried to run off, pushing the pull door, obviously without success. He kicked at the door violently, wanting to kick out the glass panels, but instead fell backwards into a drinks display. Frustrated, he removed the balaclava he was wearing right in front of the security cameras and demanded that the manager, Amanda Kroc, let him out. As if that wasn't bad enough, just 3 hours later, the police found him still on the same street as the shop with his balaclava stuffed in his pocket. Open the door, man, I want to get out! You can get out, it says pull. Ain't no time to listen, fix it! Number 9 is Dennis Hawkins. In July of 2010, 48-year-old Dennis Hawkins decided to rob a bank in Swissvale, Pennsylvania. He decided to wear the ultimate identity concealing disguise, a blonde wig, fake breasts, and clown pants. Using a toy BB gun that he'd shoplifted that morning from a local Kmart, Hawkins made off with an undisclosed amount of cash, fleeing as best he could in a ridiculous outfit. The disguise might have worked for him had it not been for the mustache and goatee, which he decided not to shave off, which showed up clearly in the surveillance footage. After police sent out a description of Hawkins, a gas station attendant reported someone fitting that unique description attempting to steal a car from their parking lot. When police arrived, it was obvious that they had found their clown man. Despite not wearing the wig anymore, he still had on the fake breasts and was covered in red dye, a result from the exploding packet in the bag of money that he stole. Got away with it, oh man! Red dye everywhere. I'm keeping these breasts on. And number 10 is Christopher Cron. Okay, there's incompetence and then there's asking to be arrested, and this guy was definitely the latter. In August of 2008, ADT, a security company, received an alarm notification from a restaurant called Junk Canoe Bar in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. Following protocol, the agent called the business in the event that the alarm was accidental. But to her surprise, 47-year-old Christopher Cron answered the phone. Cron had just broken into the restaurant and didn't seem to mind that the phone call had interrupted his robbery, even giving the representative his actual full name. Number 10 are the contactees. From the 1940s until the 1960s, the FBI began investigating a group of people known as the contactees. These individuals all had one thing in common. They claimed that they had all been contacted by extraterrestrials. While the initial list of contactees was large, there was a handful of people the FBI showed particular interest in. People like George Adamski, who took photographs of alien spacecraft, were investigated. But one of the most unusual people considered a contactee was Orfeo Angelucci. He believed that his mental energy had been taken up into space and that he had lived his entire life in the body of an avatar. If this sounds far-fetched, consider that a Freedom of Information request regarding the FBI's investigation into Angelucci revealed that the records of his case had been destroyed. Number 9 is Jason Derrick Brown. The FBI's most wanted list is world famous for documenting the criminals and dangerous individuals that the FBI is trying to capture. There are several strange cases listed on the most wanted list, and Jason Derrick Brown's disappearance is one of them. Brown became notorious for robbing an armored car guard in 2004. This resulted in a fatality, and Brown took the money that he had stolen and disappeared. Since then, the FBI have been trying to track him down, but they have had very little to go on. Based on a chance encounter with someone who knew Brown before his crime, he was still alive and well in 2009, 5 years after his crimes. At the time of this video, he's still a fugitive, and the FBI has yet to explain how he has remained hidden from view. Number 8 is the Betrayer. In 1985, one of America and Britain's greatest spies was in jeopardy. His name was Oleg Gordivsky. He had climbed the ranks of the KGB and had been promoted to the top position within the KGB's British spy ring. All along, he was actually feeding important information to the US and the UK. One day, he was suddenly recalled to Moscow, and he was certain that the KGB had discovered that he was a double agent. Several of the highest-ranking US and British spies were exposed soon after. Someone had betrayed them. The FBI and CIA carried out an extensive investigation into exactly what had happened. However, all of these years later, they still do not know. But the American and British intelligence services maintain that there was a powerful spy among their ranks who was never revealed, and that they may even still be active today. Number 7 is Robert Friend. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Jones Friend was an airman during World War II and served in both the Korean and Vietnam Wars. While his military career spanned nearly 30 years, there's something particularly strange about his service. You see, Robert Friend was the investigator who oversaw the Air Force's investigation of UFOs. The investigation was famously dubbed Project Blue Book, and while the official publication of that investigation claims that most UFO encounters could be explained, there is one thing which cannot be easily accounted for, and that is that the FBI held case files on Robert himself. Stranger still, those files were destroyed before they could be declassified. Many people believe that they contained important information about what Robert Friend really knew about the UFOs in American airspace. Number 6 is Hitler Lives. After the fall of Berlin in 1945, it was discovered that Adolf Hitler had taken his own life. His remains were taken by the Soviet army, and it was concluded that Hitler had met a grisly end. There have been various conspiracy theories about him having escaped Germany and then settling in Argentina. What makes this theory plausible is that the remains the Soviets took had been proven to not be Hitler's, and that many Nazis did escape to South America after the war. The FBI took the possibility of Hitler still being alive so seriously that they opened a case file on him. Those files have recently been declassified and describe his alleged escape to Argentina and eyewitness testimonies that people saw him alive after the war. If this proved to be true, it would be one of the most shocking moments in human history. Number 5 is Milton William Cooper. Milton William Cooper was a controversial radio host, writer, and conspiracy theorist who believed that many of the world's most dangerous diseases had been deliberately released by an elite group who wanted control of the world. Cooper's views that there was a conspiracy to manipulate the human race in order to benefit a small number of people became more and more pressing throughout the 1990s. During this period, he publicly and privately stated that he felt he was being targeted by unethical elements within the government for exposing the truth. At the time, many discounted his beliefs, and many still do today. But the FBI file on Cooper remains a controversial and some say mysterious one, as Cooper was fatally wounded in 2001 when the authorities attempted to arrest him for a number of crimes. Number 4 is the Finders Cult. The Finders Cult case files are bizarre to say the least. The organization itself had been subject to numerous podcasts and deep dives online, with people trying to find out anything they could about this group. The FBI themselves have investigated this group, and many believe that they're responsible for some of the most depraved crimes imaginable. The suggestion is that the Finders Cult is comprised of hugely powerful business people, politicians, and even some popular modern-day influencers. They've even been linked to satanic rituals, and the name of the cult is supposedly due to how they find their victims. No one knows for sure if they exist or not, but the claims that it does were taken seriously enough for the FBI to look into them. Number 3 is the Monster Hunter. On June 5th, 2019, the FBI declassified many of its files regarding Bigfoot encounters and sightings. In one of the case files is a strange back and forth between a Bigfoot researcher and an FBI agent. The release of this exchange has led to a new conspiracy theory about what the government knows about the Bigfoot phenomenon. During the exchange, the monster hunter known as Peter Byrne sent skin and hair samples to the FBI to see if they would analyze them. It took a long time, but eventually they did, and in the released documents they claimed the samples were from a deer. However, in a strange twist, Peter claims he never received the letter in those documents with the test results, leading some to speculate that the file has been tampered with in order to hide the true results of those tests. Number 2 is the Majestic 12. The Majestic 12 group is one of the most controversial topics within the ufology community. The group has also been heavily researched by the FBI, and case files exist for many of its powerful and influential members. In the 1980s, 2 FBI officers were both sent classified memos with the heading Operation Majestic 12. This memo appeared to show explicit knowledge from inside the American government that they had retrieved a crashed alien spacecraft. The memo was supposedly a briefing that was given to President Eisenhower when he was elected. The Majestic 12 involved all those who researched or had knowledge of the crash. The names of those involved do check out as important scientists and military personnel, and if the memo is real, our world just got far more mysterious. And number 1 is the Aviary. After the end of the Cold War, it was revealed that a man named Harry Rositzky was an American spy master. A spy master is someone who oversees a network of spies that carries out the spy master's instructions. Rositzky was referred to as the Falcon, and this name puzzled many people. It was soon rumored that the group he headed was called the Aviary, with each spy given the code name of a bird. While Rositzky gathered important information on the Nazis and then later the Soviets, many believe that he was the one who discovered the truth behind the previously mentioned Majestic 12, and that he leaked their existence. A Freedom of Information request revealed that he was indeed a spy master. The FBI then claimed that there were other pages about him, but they had been misplaced or destroyed. Number 10 is a pacemaker. Okay, this might only apply to the older people, but just stick with me. Do you remember Dick Cheney? He was the vice president of the United States back in 2007. In 2007, Dick Cheney had a pacemaker installed with Wi-Fi connection. This was supposed to be used to monitor his heart, but they quickly realized it could be used by some criminal to hack his pacemaker and stop it from beating. There are a lot of rumors that there are now similar pacemakers in the general population and that anyone can access them with wireless data. This includes the government. They could control your heart rate or find out all manner of information about you, including your medical state and even when you eat too much and what restaurants you go to, even when you get the meat sweats. Number 9 is RFID technology. You might know RFID technology better as contactless. Every time you use your credit card or bank card or even your phone to pay for something, a little chip inside of it sends out data to the card reader. These chips are also present in some passports. On numerous occasions, the government has tracked down people that they want to arrest through this technology. Every single time you swipe your card or use contactless payment, the government has the ability to check where the card was used and immediately deploy its agents in that area. Of course, this has been used to apprehend criminals on the run and save many lives, but it's also a way to know where the average citizen is and what they're doing. Yeah, I see you ordering that adult movie and those Twinkies. What you got going on, fool? That's right, it also means that they know exactly what you're buying, so be careful when you're in one of those naughty shops ordering Twinkies and candy. That's it. I wasn't talking about nothing else, what? Number 8 is medical data. If there's one thing that most of us believe, it's that the government cannot access your medical data. It's kind of like lawyer-client confidentiality. Nothing can break through the doctor-patient relationship, except that is completely wrong. Government agencies can access your medical data at any time. This means that they can see what medications you're on and what health issues may be a problem for you. For the conspiratorially minded, you might worry that this information could be used by the government in unscrupulous ways. If this doesn't worry you, then maybe the fact that private companies also have access to your medical data under certain agreements will. But don't ever let that stop you from going to the doctor about something. I doubt the government is concerned that you pulled your back by helping your neighbor move, or that you got that thing stuck in that area. Nobody's judging. Number 7 is pen movement. Fake spy gadgets that you can buy online are just for fun, aren't they? Not really. Some of the same technology in these gadgets can be used in sinister ways by governments from around the world. Because the internet and connected devices are so easily monitored, some resort to good old-fashioned pen and paper to write down sensitive information. But you guessed it, the government can actually access this information and gather it if they have implemented a motion tracking chip inside the pen, just like the writing pen gadgets widely available. When you write, the pen secretly records motion and therefore words you have written. All a government agent has to do after this is get their hands on the pen, download the recorded information, and you wouldn't even know. From now on, I'm writing all my shopping lists with chalk. They can't hack chalk, can they? Number 6 are financial transactions. Remember Al Capone, the famous gangster who ruled a large criminal empire under the noses of the federal government in the early half of the 20th century? They tried everything to put Al Capone away, but all that they ended up getting him for in the end was tax evasion. See, back then, in order for the government to snoop on all your financial data, they had to get their hands on your accounting books. That's what Elliot Ness had to do to take Capone down. Go watch The Untouchables if you haven't. It's a fantastic movie. Anyway, these days, the government doesn't need to read all your accounting books. All of your financial data is recorded electronically by whoever you bank with. As physical cash becomes less useful, governments can look at your financial transactions and see exactly what you buy, when, and where. Isn't that comforting? Number 5 is census data. In America, the US Census Bureau gathers data about American citizens. This includes where we live, our gender identities, who we live with, how long we've been there, when and where we were born, and huge amounts of other personal data. This is gathered through regular census surveys. Although this information is supposed to be kept private for 72 years and locked behind legislation so that the FBI and other government entities cannot access it, the US Census Bureau is, well, part of the government. We just don't know how this information is used and who it might be given to. It seems highly likely that such a rich source of data is unofficially accessed when deemed necessary by both elected and unelected officials. So the next time you fill out a census survey, just tell them your religion is Jedi. They won't take anything seriously you say after that. Number 4 is satellites. Spy satellites, also known as reconnaissance satellites, were first conceived of in the 1950s. We don't know exactly when the first ones were put into orbit, but throughout the 1960s and 70s, these satellites became more common. They were first built so that America and the Soviet Union could spy on each other without having to use reconnaissance aircraft. However, since then, they've both been used domestically and internationally by governments around the world. No one is sure how powerful these satellites are because they're currently classified. One indicator of current power is that the Keyhole satellite class can allegedly photograph an object as small as 5 inches across. These have been in operation since the 1980s, so who knows how powerful spy satellites are today. I wear a comically large hat to stop them from spying on me outside. I don't care if I get looks. Number 3 is IMSI catchers. An International Mobile Subscriber Identity Catcher, or IMSI catcher for short, is an eavesdropping device used by governments to tap into cell phone calls. Not only are they used to intercept phone calls, but they're actually used to track their current location. The IMSI catcher works as a fake mobile tower, tricking a cell phone into thinking that it's a regular phone tower. This is known as a man-in-the-middle attack, where the IMSI also connects to a real phone tower and picks up calls from both the tower and the target phone. IMSI catchers are used all the time in surveillance, though their use has brought up civil liberty issues, including privacy concerns. But that doesn't stop the government from secretly using them. The only catcher I like is in baseball, right? Am I right? Huh? Jokes. Running out of jokes. Number 2 are toll booths. In 2015, the New York Civil Liberties Union released a large number of government records showing how the government has been spying on New York residents. One of the strangest methods was its use of toll booths. Those traveling through these tolls were being scanned by E-ZPass readers, which were used by the government to scan electronic data inside passing cars, specifically the electronic tags drivers kept in their cars to pay at the toll booths. It was also discovered that the E-ZPass readers were being combined with the Stingray cell phone tracking device. Officials claim that these scanners are being used to study traffic. However, some believe that the information is just one more way for the government to access private data and to keep track of people. Can't ever scan me though. I keep my car and my body covered in tinfoil under my clothes at all time. That's normal, right? And number 1 are spies. We can talk about complex technological ways that the government spies on you. We can worry about documents that we've signed and how that information ends up in the wrong hands. However, sometimes when you need to learn something, you just need a good old-fashioned spy. If we look at history, we see that spies are not superhuman secret agents like James Bond. They're often ordinary people. After all, the whole point of being a spy is to blend in and be trusted. There's no doubt that the government currently uses spies both abroad and domestically to gather information. These people could even be someone you know.
Number 1 is an entire beach. In July 2008, half a mile of beach was stolen in Coral Springs, Jamaica, and nobody knows who took it. The equivalent of 500 truckloads of sand was stolen overnight. In Jamaica, illegal sand mining is a huge problem because people steal it to use for their own homes, as construction materials are in high demand. But wow, 500 truckloads and nobody noticed? How is that even possible? I mean, there's so many people. Oh, wait a minute. I think I know what happened. Whoa man, me see 500 truckloads. You seeing things, man. You need to lay off that ganja. Number 2 is 300 manhole covers. In 1990 in Los Angeles, 2 men stole a total of 300 manhole covers weighing 300 pounds each. The men were discovered selling the covers for just $6 each for scrap metal. If that doesn't impress you, keep in mind that they stole the equivalent of 90,000 pounds of metal, which takes equipment, time, and most importantly, a place to store it all. Of course, they were caught red-handed, but what exactly does one say when they're caught doing something like this? Oh, yeah, no, I was just curious to see if there were actually Ninja Turtles down there. I mean, I'm a plumber, my name's Mario. I mean, can I start over? Number 3 is the Empire State Building. In 2008, the New York Daily newspaper stole the one and only Empire State Building in less than 90 minutes. No, it wasn't physically moved. Instead, the paper forged documents including a bill of sale that convinced the city register office to transfer the $2 billion property to the paper. The reason they did this was to expose a huge flaw in the system, which is that city clerks are not required to verify information. And obviously it worked. Okay, I'm not saying that the person that accepted this paperwork is dumb, but what I am saying is they probably should have paid a little bit more attention to the names on the paperwork, which included the star of the movie King Kong, a famous bank robber, and the company that bought the property, Neolots, which is stolen backwards. Attention to detail, folks. Kind of important. Number 4 is an oil tanker. In 2008, Somalian pirates stole a gigantic, fully loaded oil tanker from an oil field in Ghana. Although it was being guarded by the Nigerian Navy, the Somalian pirates seemingly had a really easy time hijacking and taking off with this thing because the tanker was never found, nor were the pirates. And as if that wasn't enough, the same year 2 other tankers were stolen, except one was actually recovered, found, repainted. Wow, 1 for 3. Well, for those that own these tankers, just a little piece of advice. I'm sure the Nigerian government is volunteering their navy for cheap or even free, which is great, except you lost 2 tankers with the equivalent of 4.1 million barrels of oil worth $100 each. It might be worth it for you to invest in a little bit higher quality security. You know, just for the long run. Number 5 is a bridge. In 2007, a 38-foot long steel bridge was stolen in eastern Russia. In only a matter of hours overnight, the thieves dismantled the entire bridge, and authorities believe they did so in order to sell off the scrap metal. Interestingly, 2 other bridges were stolen that exact same year, presumably by the same culprits for the same reason. You know, this is pretty disturbing, mostly because you know there were at least a few drivers who saw what happened and just couldn't be bothered enough to report it. Does that much crazy shit happen in Russia where motorists just aren't fazed by something like this and they're just like, another bridge, I'll just go around. Number 6 is a mountain. In eastern India, there's a mountain called Hatma Pahad. The mountain once dominated the area until the majority of its peak was stolen by the locals. Over the decades, the locals from the Hatma village have continued to chip away at the mountain in order to sell the rock to property developers. The amount of rock stolen can't even be estimated because it's so large, but it's a lot. Man, things are tough there. See, this is why you should pay that $5,000 to that Indian prince that keeps emailing about that giant inheritance that's waiting for you. Obviously, he needs the money. I did it 2 years ago, but I know the money's coming. It was a good investment. Number 7 is a church. In 2008, thieves took off with a 200-year-old church in Russia, and they did so brick by brick. The disappearance of the Church of Resurrection was not immediately noticed as the church wasn't being used, but officials there were planning on resuming services soon. As it turns out, the villagers nearby were the ones that stole the bricks in order to sell them to a local businessman that was using them as building materials. Wow, Russia, really? A church? I mean, I'm not a religious person or anything, but I do know that a church is supposed to be a place of peace. Kind of a dick move. Oh well, maybe one day it'll rise again. Sorry. Number 8 is a 3,000-pound bell. In 2005, a 3,000-pound copper bell was stolen from a Buddhist temple in Tacoma, Washington. Authorities speculate that in order to move it, they would have needed a lot of heavy equipment, which would have been loud, except nobody at the quiet temple heard or saw anything. What's even more mind-boggling is that the bell is incredibly valuable, almost priceless, yet the thief tried to sell it for a scrap value of just $500. Okay, wait a minute. Mr. Thief, you stole a giant bell just to hawk it for $500? Here's an idea. Why didn't you just steal a car? Same weight, pretty sure you could have got more money for it. Number 9 is a World War II Mustang fighter plane. In 1992, a major from the Israeli Air Force stole a near priceless World War II Mustang fighter plane. He told the museum that he stole it from that it needed a fresh paint job and that he would take care of it himself, except instead of painting it, he flew it to Sweden where he sold it for $331,000. You know, you should always respect those who fight for your country, but if one of them randomly approaches you and asks to borrow a fighter plane, you should probably say no, because they might fly it to freaking Sweden. Unless they offer to bring you with them, in which case you should do it. Sweden's nice. Have you ever seen the ladies there? And number 10, a tank. On May 17th, 1995, Sean Nelson stole a tank in San Diego and went on a rampage GoldenEye 007 style. The unemployed plumber decided that he had had enough and stole an M60 tank from the US National Guard Armory. The rampage went on for a full 23 minutes while Sean destroyed cars, vans, signs, and even tried to take out a bridge. The entire thing was caught on camera, and yes, there's footage of it on YouTube. Honestly, I think what's most interesting about this story is not the fact that some random guy just walked into an armory and stole a tank, but what the people that had their cars run over by him are gonna say to their insurance companies. Not exactly fun people to deal with.
Number 10 are toys containing phthalates. One of the most recent bans by the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission are phthalates in kids' toys and child care products. Phthalates are the various salts and esters used to make plastics and vinyl softer and bendable, and found in just about everything made in China, which is just about everything. Now, while it's fine in theory for products meant for adults, the chemical is incredibly toxic for children and can cause hormone and fertility disruption, and has even been connected to obesity, asthma, neurological and cardiovascular issues, and even cancer. But the US government may go even farther than that and ban phthalates outright, especially in cosmetic products, because they can do potential damage in unborn children, so get them while you can, I guess. Number 9 are unpasteurized dairy products. Europeans will tell you that unpasteurized milk, cheese, and creams are the only civilized way to consume dairy. Compare that to the ironclad American laws stating that commercial dairy products must be heated to 72 degrees Celsius or aged at least 60 days to destroy all pathogens. In other words, stinky old cheese! The FDA keeps Americans safe from the unpasteurized dairy coming out of factory farms with poor sanitation, fermentation, temperature control, and or sick animals. Ain't nobody want to drink milk from a sick cow. Now, some argue that the FDA goes too far because not only does the richer flavor of raw milk products get compromised, but it also kills the good gut bacteria that helps combat obesity and depression. Fun fact, pasteurization was invented by a Frenchman named Louis Pasteur, who created the pasteurization process over 150 years ago that makes our dairy so safe and flavorless. So don't go putting your mouth on no cow udder, cause the government ain't gonna like that. You gonna get in trouble. Number 8 are shark fins. Chinese wedding banquets in the United States will never be the same after Congress introduced the Shark Fin Trade Elimination Act in 2016, banning its sale and importation. Shark fin soup is a Chinese delicacy that its proponents claim increases the male libido and extends human lifespans. But the means to acquire the fin, which is made of pure cartilage and basically has no nutritional value, is destructive, wasteful, and some argue immoral, because the sharks that are caught have their fins viciously removed and then thrown back into the water to die. Similar to the way that rhinos and elephants are killed for their ivory, 73 million sharks a year are killed for their fins. But in spite of the ban, shark fins continue to find their way onto American dinner plates because of the lack of oversight and deep-pocketed diners willing to pay extra for the illegal meal. People, there's lots of options out there. You don't need to go kill a shark and eat its fin. That's kind of nasty. Besides, what did Bruce the Shark do to you? Fish are friends, not food. Number 7 are antibacterial soaps. What? Yeah, you didn't know this one. On September 2nd, 2016, the FDA washed their hands of 19 of the most common additives found in commercially available antibacterial soaps. These chemicals are banned because their health benefits are unproven. In addition, they cause severe environmental damage to organisms like algae that are essential for healthy ecosystems. Furthermore, the continued overuse of the most commonly used chemical triclosan, created in 1970, are causing antimicrobial resistant mutations that can render other doctor-prescribed antibiotics ineffectual. So in other words, all those people that are germaphobes that are constantly going, "Oh, I gotta clean my hands, germs," are actually a threat to public health. Studies have shown that washing your hands with regular soap and water has a near identical effective bacteria reduction rate of 82%, as with antibacterial soaps, without all the unnecessary risks. So next time you see somebody pop one of those open ready to spill it, just slap it out of their hands. Just kidding, that would be assault. Don't go to jail. Number 6 is the Toyota Hilux. The most popular pickup truck in the world is not the Ford F-150, a Chevy Silverado, or a Dodge Ram. It's actually the Toyota Hilux. That vehicle can be found almost anywhere in the world but the United States. The reason that the Hilux is banned is what's known as the chicken tax, started back in the 1960s when European markets slapped a 25% tariff on all US poultry imports, which were dirt cheap and a threat to domestic farmers. So the United States reciprocated with its own 25% tariff on imports of brandy, potato starch, dextrin, and light trucks. So while Americans can buy some Toyota and Nissan trucks made in the United States, no Hilux for you. Number 5 are hoverboards. While these auto-balancing scooters didn't technically hover, these two-wheeled contraptions were ubiquitous at schools, malls, and basically Justin Bieber house parties. Sure, they were kind of obnoxious and hard to control, resulting in slow-motion crashes, and would often spontaneously combust and thus were banned on airplanes, but that's not why they were banned in America. The Segway company filed a complaint with the United States International Trade Commission that the Chinese manufacturers of so-called hoverboards ripped off their patents and copyrights. Yeah, how dare Chinese manufacturers infringe on the Segway's patent of dumbest product on wheels ever? How dare they? Number 4 is Beluga Caviar. Beluga is kind of like the Cuban cigar of the caviar world. It's the best tasting and rarest of fish eggs. That's especially true now that it was declared illegal to import commercially or even to bring into the United States for personal consumption as of September 2005. The reason for the ban is not a communist embargo, but the concerns of the environmental impact of overfishing of beluga sturgeon that has led to a near extinction of them in the Caspian Sea. While some purist chefs balk at the ban, there are many environmental activists that believe that the ban doesn't go far enough and that it should be adopted worldwide. Caspian countries, including Russia and Kazakhstan, are allowing beluga stocks to rebound, and ethical chefs are switching to more sustainable fish roe. I think a good way to sustain these fish is just to recognize that fish eggs are nasty. Number 3 are Cuban cigars. Cigar aficionados hold Cubans above all others for the quality, but part of their appeal is their illegality. The US and Cuba have been at odds since 1959 when Fidel Castro's revolution swept through the island, confiscated private property, and almost allowed the Soviets to install missile bases. So in wake of the Cuban Missile Crisis, near nuclear annihilation, and various attempts to assassinate Castro, including with poisoned cigars, President John F. Kennedy established a trade embargo against Cuba in February of 1962. Now, the ban was partially lifted by President Obama back in 2016 when he relaxed travel restrictions to Cuba, although it's limited to $100 of Cuban cigars or rum per person. However, commercial imports are still banned, and President Trump's reversal of Obama's Cuba rules may bring the cigar ban back. So I'm not saying smoke, it's bad for you, but if you do, and you're of age, you may want to stock up because things are about to get crazy. Number 2 are bath salts. Yeah, you remember bath salts, just people turning into zombies and stuff on the streets. There was once a time in America when you could go to your local gas station and purchase yourself some mind-bending narcotics without an ID. And bath salts were all the rage, causing delusions, heart irregularities, panic attacks, insomnia, and psychosis. You may have heard of Miami cannibal Rudy Eugene, who was shot to death by police while eating the face of a homeless man assumed to be high on bath salts, but later proved to be high on regular old marijuana. So in July of 2012, President Obama signed a law banning synthetic drugs like bath salts, fake marijuana, and other weird drugs that caused overdoses, violence, and death. Yes, this law makes sense. Yes, very good. But before the blanket ban, manufacturers would get around local laws targeting their product by changing up the chemical formula to create the same effects, but often with some unexpected side effects. This new stuff is supposed to be good.
Oh yeah, who's ready to go? I'm gonna eat some faces.
And number 1 is Four Loko. Yeah, the Four Loko that you know today is not the same one that was first made. Four Loko was essentially carbonated bath salts in a can with dangerously high levels of alcohol and caffeine when it was sold at US liquor stores between 2005 and 2014. A 24-ounce can of Four Loko sold for only $3, which was marketed to college students, and those who consumed more than 2 cans had a tendency to black out and wake up naked in strangers' kitchens with tattoos on their chest or in a jail cell. The beverage company Fusion avoided an outright ban by changing the Four Loko recipe to lower caffeine levels, rendering the drink safe for human consumption, creating a black market for the original recipe for Four Loko. So you can buy the new stuff, but the original is outright banned because it was considered liquid crack. Let's just go with that. This one's for all of you who always wished, why can't they make a highly suggestive workout tool for me? The Shake Weight is a phallic-looking object that was initially marketed towards women as an oscillating dumbbell that claims it increases the impact of exercise. At nearly $20 per Shake Weight, plus shipping and handling of course, these things sold rapidly in no small part due to the viral commercials that had people laughing so hard they must have been dying to know if the product was even real. In the first year that it was released, the Shake Weight made over $40 million for Fitness IQ and the man behind it, Ben Kuntz. In 2011, Consumer Reports released a study in which they found that doing the Shake Weight routines actually burned less calories than simply walking at a reasonable pace. So don't waste your money looking like you're, just go for a walk instead. Just in case you didn't feel nerdy enough with those pens in your pocket or purse, now you can wear that ballpoint around your neck like a real player. What's that? You want more? You got it! Boom, it's a digital clock too. Nailed it. Marketed to those who are always dropping, breaking, or otherwise losing their pens, the MagnaScribe pen is a writing tool that connects to a circular clock you wear around your neck. Simply by pulling it out of its dock, you can be writing in seconds, like, 2 seconds sooner than it was if, you had it in your purse or pocket. The commercial makes it seem like this thing is essential for your life. Why glance at your watch or phone when you could awkwardly draw up the string around your neck and turn the tiny clock to face you?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
The commercial also fails to address what happens when you ultimately lose the pen that belongs in the magnet pendant. We just gotta buy another one, obviously. Have you ever returned from a nice walk and thought, man, I wish that walk could have been more difficult and full of embarrassing mishaps? If so, do I have the perfect solution to your too solid walking problem? Toning shoes! This new footwear is keeping people on their toes with different styles such as rocker bottom sole, curved sole, and collapsible heel sole, and by promising to aid in burning more calories with each step, improving muscle strength and bettering overall balance while making walking, of course, more difficult. But of course, studies show that they don't do those things at all. In fact, on May 25th, 2011, Consumer Reports revealed that most types of toning shoes just created increased risks of injury to their wearers. Twisted ankles, muscle tears, and even broken bones were becoming common, with some of the injuries actually requiring surgery to fix. Stick to normal shoes, people. There are no shortcuts. Ugh, isn't preparing pasta such a chore? All that boiling and waiting patiently? And don't you just hate all those dishes that you have to do after you cook it? Well, lucky for you, the Pasta Pro is here to make your life much easier. Basically, a pot with holes in the top of it for straining the water, this thing's gonna revolutionize how you soften your noodles. Just boil, dump, and then do everything else you'd normally do. Of course, the Pasta Pro barely decreases any amount of dishes that you have to do, merely eliminating the strainer, which you probably eliminated anyway if you use the lift the pot lid just enough for the water to spill out but not the noodles approach. Still though, how can you go without it? The best part of this as seen on TV item is the commercial itself, which expresses the product's versatility, which allows it to be used on either a gas or electric stovetop. You know, like pretty much every other pot in existence. So. Want to improve your strength, dexterity, flexibility, but without actually working for it? Try the Power Bracelet! This company, whose CEO and PR team, by the way, must go through a lot of undergarments with their pants constantly catching on fire, created some plastic wrist accessories that promise you an increase in physical attributes simply by wearing them. Or at least they did. That is, until they were forced by an Australian Competition and Consumer Commission ruling in 2011 to retract their claims. They also had to apologize and pay out around, I don't know, somewhere around the tune of $57 million for false advertising. The false advertising claimed that the enhancements occurred due to holographic technology, which was basically a sticker on the front of the bracelet. How people believed the company's lies, I'll never understand, but many did and shelled out around $30 per unit. And they sold a whole lot of them. There's a sucker born every minute. It happens all the time. A happily newlywed couple are settling down for the night when suddenly one of them farts, ending the bliss forever in the stench of the possessed element that is now hovering around them. Next thing you know, they're in a bitter custody battle as the divorce papers get finalized. If you don't want this to happen to you, then you've got to get the marriage blanket. This ridiculous product sells for just $29.99 plus shipping and handling and promises to protect your union from the bodily functions you experience by insulating you against each other's odors. Made from activated carbon fabric, which apparently is what the military needs to protect soldiers from chemical weapon attacks, the marriage blanket absorbs your flatulence and saves you from a nasty divorce. Of course, a real partnership could survive a little poopy gas, but don't go telling that to all those potential customers. To them, it's just silly nonsense. Legit though, how bad your farts gots to be to make me want to get a divorce with you? Less Taco Bell, more veggies. As ripoffs go, few are more clearly not worth your money than those which promise you healthier life and the chance to shed those excess pounds without exercise, like by simply, taking a pill. However, that's just what a number of TV commercials advertised for companies like Informa Natural Products, who in April of 2000 was ordered to settle up with the Federal Trade Commission's charges and paid $10 million in consumer redress after misleading customers with their products. Their products included exercise in a bottle, Fat Absorber, Fat Trapper, and Fat Trapper Plus. Calling these products miracle drugs, the people behind these lies actually had the nerve to try it again, this time falsifying scientific studies and violating the court order by advertising and selling new products, Acceleron and Chitrazyme. In case you didn't know, there's no pill that can make you lose weight. It's all proper diet and exercise. Unless it's a laxative, and in which case you probably lose a little bit of weight. Sorry, that's gross. Men, when you gotta go, am I right? But when you're about to tee off on that 10th hole and that urge to pee creeps up on you, what do? What's that? You want to find a toilet, outhouse, or bushes like a normal human being? Why on earth would you do that when there are products like Euroclub to assist you? This incredibly ridiculous secret pee-pee reservoir makes the perfect gift for golfers who can't be more than 8 feet from a bathroom at all times. Grandpa, looking at you. The Euro Club looks like a normal golf club, except the end of the grip unscrews to reveal a tube that's ready to receive your 3-wood. By covering your crotch area with the provided green towel and putting your business inside the club, relieving yourself is exactly the same as using a facility, only more complicated and obvious. Ever wonder why your dad takes a really long time before putting? Yeah, now you know. When it comes to false advertising, it seems like sometimes hiding the lies and a hint of truth makes the advertiser sleep better. Take sauna suits, or the more modern sauna shorts, for example. These things promise to strip you of those extra pounds by making you sweat more, but they're far from a good idea. Now, the truth is in the sweating part. The suits and shorts keep the heat in, increasing your body heat, which makes you sweat. Now, while yes, you lose water weight while you sweat excessively, it's a temporary fix. The first thing you have to do is drink water to compensate, and that's just going to bring the weight right back. What's worse is that using sauna suits, shirts, or any similar style of attempted weight loss can do some real damage to your body. Excessive sweating can lead to severe dehydration, which in turn can lead to organ failure. This one's not just a ripoff, it's life-risking. But hey, if you want to lose some pounds, sometimes you just gotta ride the snake. Yeah, don't you just hate it when you're doing your business, you know, dropping the kids off at the pool, you know what I'm saying? And there's absolutely nothing to do but sit there and wait for nature's movements to be over with? Sure, you could read my book, Mind Equals Blown, or a magazine, or get back to those texts that you've been putting off, but there's got to be something that, while spectacularly unnecessary, will give you something to do and maybe even teach you something. Well, yes, there is! The Potty Putter! Though now widely considered a gag gift for avid golfers, this bathroom distraction had a real TV commercial teasing it would take some strokes off your game for only $19.99. The ad actually promised to make you healthier by not rushing your business, claiming with the Potty Putter, you'll take time to play with your putter. Of course, the whole thing is incredibly awkward as nobody putts in a squatting position. And if you do, they're probably pooping their pants and you should get authorities immediately. Number 1 is Lee Mercer Jr. Lee Mercer Jr. is an absolutely insane Democratic candidate who ran for president back in 2008. Mercer's website went into full detail on the hard issues concerning America, ones that he was determined to prove existed and then fix. These important issues included Governor William Perry wanting to kill him and his family, Jeb Bush being all in his House of Disease, and proving that the government owes him zillions of dollars in money. These are obviously nonsense claims, but one of the best was that he wanted to prove that the US had 2 governments, called Government Number 1 and, you guessed it, Government Number 2, and that he himself already owns Government Number 1. Mercer ran again in 2016 stating that he wanted to install a computerized government that he invented that can run everything. He truly believes that by digitally analyzing recorded information about a government, that he can create a computer version of that government. The new computerized government overlords will be used to sue the original American government along with other governments of the world. Well, sign me up! Number 2 is George Wallace. George Wallace was a U.S. Democrat who served as the governor of Alabama for 4 total terms between the years of 1963 and 1987. He was also a blatant racist who strongly supported the segregation of black and whites in society. On June 11, 1963, he stood in the doorway of the University of Alabama to physically block black students from enrolling. In 1968, he ran as an independent candidate for president but lost to Richard Nixon. But alarmingly, he received a surprisingly large amount of support from racist groups and the public. But he decided to tone down his prejudices and ran for the Democratic Party's presidential candidacy in the following election. On May 15, 1972, a man named Arthur Bremer attempted to assassinate Wallace by shooting him 5 times. But Wallace actually survived and became paralyzed and ended up losing the 1972 election. In the years leading up to his death on September 13, 1998, he renounced all of his previously held racist beliefs and asked African Americans for their forgiveness. Oh really? That's how you think racism works? You just live your whole life just hating on black people and then all of a sudden, right before you die, just right before you're just gonna be like, I love black people! Yeah, doesn't work like that. Sorry, bro. Number 3 is Cynthia McKinney. Cynthia McKinney was a Democratic Party member who represented Georgia in the United States House of Representatives for 6 terms before she ran for the Oval Office under the Green Party in the 2008 election. McKinney's political history prior to 2008 was pretty odd, as she had tried to pass an act that would release the official documents detailing Tupac Shakur's death. She's a 9/11 truther, and she once punched a Capitol police officer. McKinney also held a press conference after Hurricane Katrina, stating that she had information from anonymous insiders that 5,000 people were executed and dumped into a swamp in Louisiana. Supposedly, all this data was hidden somewhere on a Pentagon computer. Unsurprisingly, Crazy McKinney only received 0.12% of the total vote for the presidency. Her failure streak continued when she ran for her old job in the House of Representatives in 2012, but never received enough support to even get on the ballot. If you elect me, I'll tell you where Tupac and Biggie are. They're my homies. Number 4 is Mike Gravel. Mike Gravel is a former Democratic senator from Alaska who attempted to secure the party's nomination for president in 2006. He managed to gain some attention due to his overly intense and amusing nature at the televised Democratic debates in 2007. But he also released 2 strange videos on the internet titled Rock and Fire. Both were supposedly avant-garde artistic videos created with the help of 2 teachers from the Otis College of Art and Design in Los Angeles. Rock involves him silently staring into the camera for a full minute, only to walk away and throw a large rock in a pond. Oh, but Fire is way more complicated. It's literally just footage of him at a fire, and then a long shot of the fire, almost for 8 minutes long. After failing to get the nomination, Gravel decided to switch to the Libertarian Party and run for the presidential nomination in 2008, but yeah, surprisingly, he lost that too. Gravel has since retired from politics and now works for a company that deals in marijuana products, which seems like the sensible progression for a character like him. Number 5 is Ross Perot. Similar to Donald Trump, successful American businessman Ross Perot, who has a current net worth of $4 billion, ran in the 1992 presidential elections as an independent candidate. Early on, Perot's campaign gained attention, and it gave him a fighting chance against his major party opponents, including George Bush Sr. However, Perot's support began to wane, and he soon announced his withdrawal from the race. He later blamed his exit on threats by the Bush campaign to release fake compromising photographs of his daughter that would have ruined her wedding. Oh, but he wasn't done, because he then jumped back into the race and won back voters with expensive advertisements and exceptional performances at presidential debates. Ultimately, Perot lost the election but managed to attain 19% of the popular vote. He ran again in 1996 but hurt his own chances after losing his temper in a debate against Al Gore on CNN's Larry King Live. He ended up losing with only 8% of the popular vote this time, and his political career was over. Number 6 is Joe Exotic. Joseph Maldonado, also known as Joe Exotic, is currently the director of the world's largest private zoo for tigers and ran as an independent candidate in the 2016 presidential election. Joe opened his park on October 14, 1999, and has since learned to perform magic, record music, and was awarded Best Crime Prevention by the United States Postal Service, whatever that means. Oh, but get this, Joe also has his own YouTube channel with tons of content, including his own self-produced music videos, live shows, and presidential messages. More than enough to convince any reasonable person that he's a total nutcase. I mean, who uploads videos to YouTube? In a campaign video for his presidency bid, Joe gets right to the important matters by declaring that he won't cut his hair or change the way he dresses. He states that he's gay, has had 2 boyfriends, has had kinky relations, tried drugs before, is broke as F, and has definitely never been convicted of animal cruelty. That's a really odd thing to add to the end. I have definitely never, ever been convicted of animal cruelty. Don't look into the past. Never happened. Everything's good. Vote for me. Number 7 is Jimmy McMillan. James Jimmy McMillan is an American politician and the chairman of the Rent is Too Damn High party, who ran for the Republican primaries in the 2012 presidential elections. McMillan's history includes serving in the Vietnam War, stripping, acting as a private investigator, and being a karate expert. During his campaign, he teamed up with loony candidate and politician satirist Vermin Love Supreme, and each vowed to be the other's running mate. Unfortunately, the Republican Party did not take McMillan McMillan's entry seriously, avoiding inviting him to the debates altogether or even putting him on the ballot. Over the course of his campaign, McMillan's catchphrase of "too damn high" became a popular internet meme. And on September 13th, 2012, he ended up abandoning his campaign for the primaries and turned his efforts towards becoming mayor of New York. Yeah, that makes sense. But on December 9th, 2015, Jimmy formally announced his retirement from politics. This is probably a good thing for American politics, considering the amount of ridiculousness coming from this one man alone was just too damn high. Number 8 is Jonathan Albert the Impaler Sharkey. Jonathan Sharkey is an ex-professional wrestler known as the Impaler who ran for president as an independent twice, once in 2004 and again in 2008 before running for the Republican candidacy in 2012. When he isn't trying to become president, the Impaler seems to spend his days trying to win an imaginary contest for most despicable person on the planet. You see, Sharkey has received 2 separate restraining orders from 16-year-old girls and practices actual vampirism. Yep. But Matt, what does that mean? It means that the Impaler drinks human blood as well as cow and pig blood twice a week because he likes it. He says that if he were president, he would ban abortions and teaching evolution, but he does want to be able to torture, impale, dismember, and decapitate certain criminals. You know what? Let's just make sure that the military policies and nuclear codes of America stay away from a guy who likes torture and drinking blood. Sound good? Okay. Number 9 is Leonard Live Forever Jones. Leonard Jones was a wealthy landowner in the 1800s who was genuinely convinced by a strange man that he was immortal. Jones began a political career running for the presidency on many occasions between 1840 and 1860, with his main position being, well, that he was freaking immortal. According to Jones, anyone could achieve immortality just like him. All they had to do was eat and drink very little and pray all the time. If you didn't, you'd catch a bad case of mortality. Even though no one took him seriously, crowds enjoyed watching his zealous speeches, and his opponents found him to be completely mad, but otherwise entertaining. He claimed that President Lincoln's assassination was a punishment from God for not voting him in as president. But then, shockingly, in 1868, Jones caught pneumonia, which could have been treated had he not believed that he was immortal. He died on August 30th. And number 10 is Deez Nuts. Oh, you know this had to be on the list. Deez Nuts was the name of a third-party presidential candidate who ran in the 2016 elections. Despite his hilariously ridiculous and kind of awesome name, August 2015 polls run in Minnesota, Iowa, and North Carolina gave him 8 to 9% of the popular vote. Impressively, the Nuts campaign platform included some actual substance and supported things like tax cuts for companies using renewable energy, legal abortion, same-sex marriage, and voting rights for America's overseas territories. So, who was behind this joke candidate that ended up winning the rebel vote? Believe it or not, it was a 15-year-old high school student from Wallingford, Iowa named Brady Olson who filled out a candidate form and started getting the best polling numbers for an independent since Ross Perot in 1996. But even if Deez Nuts had managed to win the vote, Olson is still 2 decades too young to be officially accepted for the presidency. And unfortunately, because of Nuts' success, the Federal Election Commission announced a future punishment for any funny or disingenuous political candidate. Sorry everyone, but there goes any potential to see any comeback for Deez Nuts and his possible future running mate, Dadass.